Look at the screen.
Turn your head around.
Grace, it doesn't look like you're joking. Is this your mom?
You saw him.
These might be the craziest people we've ever anything before.
Ashley, put on something nice. Put on a little perfume. Maybe get in the bathtub. And let's go for...
Okay, just curious, no judgment. Are you in some type of romantic? Are you in a romantic relationship with your dad, question mark? Before the Max arc, I would have had a lot of charitability for kind of weird situations like this, but I'm probably pretty dry right now on being charitable for this kind of stuff.
Sir.
Oh, that's such a weird thing. Holy shit.
Why won't you let your father talk to you? Why won't you let your father talk to you? Why won't you let your father talk to you? Why won't you let your father talk to you?
Throw it in their face all the time.
Burn in hell, you
daughter and your sons are
Jesus
nice people,
Christ.
and you hate them.
May
for
you
no
rot in hell for...
Because I'm gonna kick your ass. I'm gonna f you up, Steven!
Just say it, Destiny. You want to say it? Go ahead, say it. I'm abused. I'm not in... Yeah, I totally disagree with you. I think, if anything, Hillary is the abusive one, but I don't see any signs of abuse at all.
Okay.
Okay, so...
Yeah, where do you want to start?
We can...
Hello. So, I just graduated from high school last year, and I'm excited to hop into debates about what I think good marriages should look like. Like, what the fuck? So I'm really excited because yesterday my boyfriend finally got his driver's license. You know, like, Jesus. Would you call this abusive? What is this? Ben Thorp, aka Abel, and Thorp Autokos. What is this?
You know better than that.
I didn't know Joe was behind you.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. And
You didn't know? No, that's a lie.
Okay.
That is a damn lie. You didn't know Joey was right there behind you?
Oh shit. Is she crazy?
Retard. You know better than that.
I didn't know Joe was behind you.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. And
You didn't know? No, that's a lie.
Okay.
That is a damn lie. You didn't know Joey was right there behind you?
No, I can't see him. Look at the screen.
Turn your head around.
Oh my god!
He's right there. You saw him.
Grace,
It's a
why?
big deal, but I'm just saying that's a lie.
It was a joke? Wait, was it a joke? Wait, are you sure?
Retard. You know better than that.
I didn't know Joe was behind you.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. And
You didn't know? No, that's a lie.
Okay.
That is a damn lie. You didn't know Joey was right there behind you?
No, I can't see him. Look at the screen.
Turn your head around.
Grace, it doesn't
He's
look
right
like you're
there.
joking. Is this your mom?
You saw him. I'm not saying it's a big deal, but I'm just saying that's a lie.
She is not happy, Grace. Jesus. Okay. Oh my god, you're like a little psychopath. Her dad was talking about you being socially retarded because of your chat. Wait, was he streaming at the same time?
I didn't get to complain.
Hold
this
on.
time.
Oh, this is 4 days
What
ago.
are my complaints today? Well, I spent a lot of energy today, threw a lot of money at a little blue-haired devil named Stephen Bennell. That's right, Destiny. The streamer. And I'll tell you what.
These might be the craziest people. I think they are. I think somehow we're still up in the ante. These might be the craziest people we've ever anything before. Maybe.
This guy in his chat really lacks social skills. Usually when I'm on a chat, I get at least banned or friend. These people, they just put emojis in. They barely notice you're there. I tried everything I could to get on panel, but... And I had a really good point. Man, did I have a good point. What was my point? Oh, the Steven Crowder point. We should go over the Steven Crowder thing. But Grace, this is going to be more of like a fun night of interaction. Am I right?
Yeah.
Well, Grace, what the hell? You've got a laptop there. I can't really see that, can I?
Well, you can see this better.
Yeah. All right.
You literally stumbled upon the Hills Have Eyes family?
So why don't you throw this StreamYard link?
I did. I'm looking for a...
And let's see if anyone shows up. And I've had a few shots. And I hope that's okay with everybody. And we're going to talk about Steven Crowder. So-called abuse. Grace's prospects from landing on his patio, which I think are pretty good at this point. And what else, Gracie? Destiny.
Hang on, I'll be right back.
What's the deal with Destiny? And that's not like a comedy club night thing. Like, what's up with Destiny? What I'm saying is, what is the deal here? He's got a chick with him, good-looking Arab woman named Farha.
Oh God.
Isn't this guy married? I mean, what? He's going on bike rides with her and having picnics.
Well, how do they know so much about my life? What is happening?
Is this like 2023? How you are married? Ashley, do you go for this kind of stuff? Does this make any sense to you? All right. So, what's tonight's song? I'm feeling like this is gonna be a slow song kind of night.
Yeah.
Karaoke night. Okay.
Yeah. I agree.
Ashley, put on something nice. Put on a little perfume. Maybe get in the bathtub. And let's go for...
Is it okay? Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm just asking. Okay, because I genuinely don't know. Is it confirmed that she is in an incestuous relationship with this guy? Is that like 100%, or is that like a memo?
Slow songs? Sad songs?
Slow and sad, I would say.
Slow and sad songs.
What do we
And
feel?
then complaining.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Sometimes on a Friday, it's been a long week, and you just feel like, you know what? Fuck you.
Yeah.
And it's a way of saying, it's a way of affirming life negatively.
Yeah.
What's a good depressing song?
Let me
Dark
see.
song. You got the blues, you got all this. Okay, what about I start with Fake Plastic Trees?
That's a good one, yeah. I'm down for that.
You're down for it? Okay, we're in the same place tonight.
I'm
Last
so
time you were
down for
not
that.
down for it. You were doing your fake I'm a happy girl thing.
Yeah.
Just like your...
Okay, just curious. No judgment. Are you in some type of incestuous? What's like a nice way of saying incestuous relationship? Romantic. Are you in a romantic relationship with your dad? ? I'm so confused right now.
Wait, then do the hot emoji after.
No, shut up.
Do it. You're a pussy. Do it right now. You do it, and I owe you one because that'll be fucking hilarious. Come on, do it.
I'm just trying to understand. Okay, she said I'm not bruh.
Mother on her fake happy karaoke night.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Just wanted to start from the beginning.
Okay, what are you doing?
Here you go.
Be like,
She already said no. So.
hey, do you want to explain why, or I don't know, like, here's a few links, I'm confused.
Why do these people always find me? Okay, she says, we have a lot of trolls. Is that what's going on here? Andrew from the Crucible setting her up. I feel like I'm getting like a honeypot. Okay, so I wanted to come here and let you know. I watched your stream snipe, Grace. I had no idea you were even doing them. You sound like an obsessed nutcase, but that's on you. Melly Mel. Couple quick things I wanted to address. One, you don't need us to build an audience. In the grand scheme of YouTube, we are a tiny channel. Truth is, blah, blah, blah. Two, your strategy is all kinds of fucks. Just contact Destiny and float with him for like 20 minutes, like every talentless e-skank who came before you. He will then let you on his show and expose you to thousands of people. This in turn will give you access to a large audience quickly. Beating the Crucible, as what's seemingly your goal, isn't particularly difficult. We don't orbit creators. There isn't any particular reason you shouldn't, though. Oh, and then I don't know 3. Damn. My God. Oh, she says, I have beef with Andrew. Damn.
Gibbon says, where are the chicks and the coke?
In the flake black.
I'm starting to wonder if we should watch that other video. I feel like this is like a full-on cult family.
You know, when the kids were younger and Grace and John were fighting, at one point, I gave them 2 knives and said, go ahead, kill yourself. I never peeped. But I did have a thing when I was going to school there because I'll admit I wasn't I'm not the healthiest guy. I had issues. But we were in Cambridge, Mass, at a place that would be unprohibitively expensive now, but it was owned by the school. There was a building right across from us, and there was a family in the building, and there was I don't know, older. I'm gonna say she was in her 20s. This girl, and they wouldn't put the curtains down, and I would just be waiting for the girl to take her, to undress for the night, and I mean, that's terrible. But I did spend a lot of hours looking over there. You just sit there for hours. You're going like, oh, okay, come on, please.
On the side of caution when she's joking around with a 16-year-old girl, I mean, that's just obviously ridiculous. No.
What is being cautious with a 16-year-old?
Yeah, I mean, we're 2 girls. I mean, like the fact that
Let's say if we were talking, they could talk about like, is penis size important? Let's just say, right?
Ben, shut the fuck up.
You'll say this is provocative. I think a lot of the sexual predator priest stuff is overblown. I think a lot of those
Mike,
kids
are you
gay
Catholic?
kids.
I think you're
yeah,
not,
I
bro.
think 14-year-old whores who go on a mingle and are hoping to see a penis deserve to encounter porn.
I do think women are largely whores, but I wouldn't speak from my own experience. I've had several homosexual encounters, but I've not had any gay sex. I got somewhat molested by a beautiful girl when I was visiting my friend Joe Shabatoni. I loved it. I mean, she was beautiful. I think of it.
Go off a
tangent. The fondling.
What's the tangent?
Are you trying to say you got molested by a younger woman? Did you just?
No,
say
she
that?
was old. She was old. His older sister. She was gorgeous.
Joe Sabatoni.
Yeah. And his mother sort of agreed with him. It was crazy. Totally crazy.
Nothing to do with YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
He found some. Whatever. This is when his mother was. I mean, this isn't really like YouTube, right? And so. He was convinced of this somehow. I think his mother was telling him. So he went through his sister's phone and she sent me something, a teenage girl will send something. Maybe it was an emoji of a
I think in a
eggplant
phrase it was,
really
hey, can you come up here and bring that big dick with you? And
right.
Plant emojis?
Yeah.
I have no memory. I don't know.
Saying, I think I'm the most sexually normal guy in the world. I was told, I have someone who goes to my chat who's a 16-year-old girl, and I was told like it's really, really a problem. I was like, what would be the problem? I chat with her. I would meet her in person. I would tell a 6-year-old girl that her dress looked pretty.
Ben.
I'm a pedophile in the Greek sense, Mike. Lover of children. I love children, especially girls.
Ben.
I love children, especially little girls.
I think you should be less ambiguous about that.
And I like to, I guess you could call it flirting, flirt with little girls and say like how pretty they look.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
Oh, I think that's your problem, guys. A normal man loves to flirt with a little girl and say, "Are you a little girl?"
Flirt with little girls, you fucking.
What's wrong with him?
It depends what you mean by flirt, but yeah, like flirt. Yeah, like say like, "Aren't you a pretty little girl?" Oh, my kids were little. I very much loved their little bodies, and I pinched their butts and all that stuff. That was very touchy-feely. I think you're crazy if you're not, but I'm not.
This clip of him and Erudite?
Everybody.
You don't need to be here if you don't want to be a part of this conversation.
What's your problem? Why are you coming on here scolding everybody?
Chill out, Ben. Chill out.
I'll say again, if you don't want to be here, you're welcome to leave. You don't have to be a part of
you're
the
welcome to leave too.
Chill out, Ben.
Ask Alex.
I demand my rights.
Okay.
He's trolling. Yeah, he's trolling.
The whole point.
Invited Kyla. Just take it easy. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm just kidding with you, Kyla or Kayla, whatever your name is.
Okay. The whole point that I'm trying to get at is the concern of emphasis. For women, my frustration with women and Yas Queen girl group is when we talk about sexual assault, we just want to talk about how dirty, pig-headed, gross men do sexual assault. And that's about the end of the conversation. When a really important part about the conversation are things like, how do we make our cues more explicit so that situations that are messy and like unclear consent leads to somebody, women, that use them not.
Time. Everybody just sits here.
But I think, okay, I would say,
I'm on stream just so make a quick point, and we'll bounce it around. That's how guys talk.
All right, chill out. I don't think that, though, we can right away assume
Am I right, Science Monk?
that he was being predatory. It's entirely possible that he was being a predator, right? I'm not saying that's impossible, but it's also possible that he legitimately did not know any better.
I'm sorry, I'm like going down this rabbit hole now. They're all playing characters?
There is something incestuous going on.
If you're a girl and you're not connected to your dad, you need to go find your dad and suck his dick.
Maybe some of these are like trolling? What is... Okay, we might just watch this whole video. Jesus Christ. Maybe they mean like metaphorically. She should have met me before the Max arc, because before the Max arc, I would have had a lot of charitability for kind of weird situations like this, but I'm probably pretty dry right now on being charitable for this kind of stuff.
I'll refer you to my first supercut on the Thorps here, and leave a link in the description if this is your first time hearing of them. I want to pick up around where that left off for December 28th, 2022. John Thorp, Ben's son, appeared on a few of the Thorp streams prior to this. However, it was actually Ben forcing his son onto these streams at the time, threatening his living situation. At this time, John had just had knee surgery and was on crutches when he decides to confront his father in a call.
Right, okay, so you guys have a problem. Why aren't you working
we don't
together
have a
to
problem.
solve
They
it?
have a problem, and you do too. It's called stupidness, and you all have it.
John, don't you think you could get a wheelchair?
What are you talking about?
A wheelchair is what I'm
Why would I
talking
get a wheelchair? I can walk around with crutches. I just can't do anything, really.
Why not?
Because I can't bring something from one area to another with crutches.
Oh my God.
There's nothing to fucking eat up here anyways. You need somebody to like help you if you're using crutches. You need somebody around you. Nobody like uses crutches by themselves.
Well, John, can you sit in a chair? I mean, you're telling me
You don't even know what you're talking about.
all
You don't
do is
do
sit
anything.
there?
All you do is sleep all day. You just sit in your bed laying down like a loser. I move more than you at this point, even though I have a leg injury. You don't even move, and you're a fully functional
You won't let me
adult.
talk. This is
You don't do anything.
John, your sister Grace is available. She's nimble.
Yeah, I don't.
Walk
I'm not
upstairs.
gonna ask you guys to do that stuff. Because you're gonna just use it as a power game because that's all you guys do. It drives me crazy. All you did from the first second that I got this leg injury was use it as a power game against me, and I hate it.
The point John is making about everything turning into a power game is a great point. Because of Ben seeing Courtney and John, his wife and son respectively, as the enemy, every conversation or interaction that I've ever seen them have has been some type of power game, whether it's to gain something or to manipulate them or to embarrass them. There's always a power game going on.
That's why all a power trip for you guys. Look, I'll dangle this in front of your face the entire time. Look, I'll dangle food in front of you. Look, I'm dangling this stuff in front of you.
Anything in front of you?
I'm not doing that game. I'd rather starve than play into your little power game where I have to say sorry all the time, or you're gonna like not feed me.
John, you said
John, what the fuck?
You don't give me any
is
food when you come up here. You gave me brownies that were left over last
is
time,
wrong with
and
you?
I
What
don't
the
get
fuck
any
is wrong
food. What are
with
you
you?
talking
Why are you
about?
such an asshole all the time?
How am I an asshole all the time? You don't even talk to me. All you do is cry. All you do is cry and make weird comments on the YouTube channel about how I talk or whatever. That's what you're doing. Isn't it funny that your knee injury? Where'd you get that from? It's like the most cringy comments ever, and nobody laughs. Nobody laughs. Have you ever noticed that nobody thinks you're that funny? You're not really a funny guy. You're like annoying.
Okay, John, what?
I don't know what this whole like. Oh, let's
with
fix you now, buddy. Like I don't need your help in any way. You don't help me. You never helped me. You always just have been sitting on the sidelines like a retard, waiting for other people to like complain.
John, what I'm saying
I
is
wasn't complaining before I got the leg injury. I was getting myself food. I was feeding your children. You treat your daughter like your mommy. Is that nice? Baby
John,
boy.
You want a sandwich?
Like, you're talking to me. Stop talking to me like that.
John, you would like to get.
I hate you.
Nobody likes your dynamic together. You suck. You're like just depressing to watch.
Grace, John's sister, is 10 feet beneath him and can get him a sandwich.
No, you can't. You use that as a game. I'm not playing that game. Where else am I getting food? Nobody's getting fed up here. Like, why don't you just not come up here then? Like, I don't even know why you're coming up here. That's not the deal, that you get to come up here at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 3
I never
p.m.,
go up
and you
there,
don't give
John.
anybody food except yourself, and you're selfish. That's what's going on. You get to come up here and ruin everybody's time whenever you come up here.
Shut
Come
up.
up here 7 times a day, and then at midnight, and then at 3 a.m., and then at 6 a.m., and then at 8 a.m., and then at 12 p.m., and like every second of the day you're gonna eat. What is wrong with you and not offer anybody food? Ridiculous.
John, I never go up there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I know, because you're a weirdo. You don't even talk to your children.
John, you told me that if I enter those premises, you have.
No, I never said that to you.
By calling the police on me.
If you're gonna threaten to kick me out unfairly, just because you felt like it, because you think that you have this upper hand, you're getting a good deal up here. If anything, I'm paying half your rent, and you're not doing anything for it except having 2 of your children live up here, tormenting me. That's not a very good deal for me.
Where are the other children?
I don't know why I have to be so incredibly grateful for it. It's like very like I have no independence. I'm like living at home still. That's why it's like, what is so great about like living here? It's basically just living at home, but without the support of your like mother if you get injured.
Correct?
No, I'm a victim of your situation that you forced me to be in. Yeah.
Me, you're a victim of Grace. You're a victim of your 2 brothers who are your
but
roommates.
it all comes down to you. It all comes down to you.
Who aren't you a victim of?
Guy ever? You suck. I think
I'm
you
a
have
great
failed
guy. Yeah, you're
so
wrong.
many
I'm
times.
a great guy.
You fail. You act like you're not. It's not even just that, because I don't have a problem with people who fail. I really actually respect the like Abyssinia thing. I know you think I hate you for that, but I respect that you did that. I respect a lot of things that you've done, but you're just the relationship that you have with me throughout that whole thing. Thank you, man. I love you. Such a great dad.
Yeah, I am a great dad.
Everybody should be grateful to you because you're the God of everybody. Everybody should be grateful to you. Everybody should say sorry to you too, including random internet people like the Ortho Bro. He should say sorry to you, and that he's so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry for what I've done to you. What did he do to you? You have to. That's why you don't have any friends, because you think everybody owes you something.
Dion says you should take a.
John,
not everybody owes you something, Benny boy. Maybe you owe some people some things and you don't give them anything.
No, you're a.
Hey, buddy, be super respectful to me. I'm your
What is there
father.
here that I'm supposed to respect? You're an insolent
You don't have to respect
fucking
me.
asshole.
Obviously, you don't respect me at all. I don't have to give you that much respect.
What is there worthy of
you
respect
as my
here?
father if you don't give me any respect as even a person?
What is there that you're doing that is worthy of respect?
That's why, and you're a loser.
Oh, that's such a weird thing. Holy shit. Did anybody? It's like that's the Steven Crowder line, right? Are you even worthy of being a wife?
I'm not. How about that? That's a loser thing to do. Just sit in bed all day,
Call back.
having your daughter bring you food.
Or call forward,
and then
prediction, I guess?
crying on internet streams about how much you hate her. Okay, guy, we get it. You're the traditional man. You've won in life. No, you suck.
I'm winning.
Your whole,
I'm winning, and I'm
program.
winning even more. And you should join my team because what you're doing.
You're not a winner, Ben. Any boy, you're not a winner. You're a loser.
You shouldn't refer
You've
to me
lost
that way.
in life. You've lost.
You should not refer to me that way.
I don't want to be on a loser team.
Well, I'm not the one who sounds gay.
I don't sound gay either.
Gay. I'm not the one who has a victim
I don't really
mentality.
Okay.
You're a grown man.
Thank you.
Stop crying like a little
Okay,
baby.
I'll stop crying because I'm crazy. I'm just insane. I'm a crazy
happy
person.
to help you.
And you're the reasonable one.
How are you going to succeed in life?
Grovel at your feet and kiss your toes, and then we'll talk. And then even then, you'll just use it like what Gracie does. You just rip her to shreds every day, no matter what she does. And
I'm not claim to be a victim.
She should just fucking leave. She should leave. It's ridiculous what goes on between you two. You're just disgusting people.
Okay, so what part of this am I supposed to respect, John?
I didn't say you have to respect any part of this. I'm just telling you
because I don't respect you. I don't respect anything you're doing now.
But I don't care really. I honestly don't really care. I just don't really like.
What is there here that I'm supposed to respect?
Situation that you put me in. It sucks.
You're a victim of me.
I'm not a victim of you. You've just put me in an awful situation.
John, I don't ask anything of you.
Yeah, exactly. You don't ask anything of me. You just make me pay $550 a month to live with my two brothers who hate me because you programmed them to hate me. That's fun. I love doing that. As if this is like the family place. This is where the whole family hangs out, right? Okay. That's good. Good. I love it. I love
you
this
should be grateful to me for getting you out of your.
Thank you so much for giving me an apartment that you took away from me immediately when you gave it to me. Thank you.
John, what I don't understand is you are perfectly free to leave from all the horrible
I'm not, Ben. You can't get an apartment when you're 18 just like that. And I have a 2-year lease, or somebody has a 2-year lease. You lied about the papers because you're crazy, as if that's helpful. Maybe you should just tell me what you wrote on those lease papers instead of lying to me and then making me pay half the rent every month. You withhold my renting information. I have no idea what situation I'm in. And then whenever you feel like it, you can blow up my phone and ask me to come down there whenever you feel like it, and like threaten my living situation that I hate, threaten everything, ruin my life.
John,
whenever you feel like it.
John, you have
crazy.
John, you have
Apparently,
5. You now have 5 cats up there.
Yes, then you know why I have 5 cats? Because you invited every piece of your family to come over, and my cat escaped because everybody leaves the f***ing door open. I didn't get my cat pregnant. You did. Through the rest of your goddamn family.
All of this stuff you're doing right now, you're gonna have to do a 180 on. It totally fucking sucks.
Okay, thank you. You're God. You're God.
It comes from the bowels of hell.
I don't think she's having an incestuous relationship with her father. She said she hadn't had a long-term relationship, remember? If I had to guess, based on, and this is very, very, very early and very preemptive, I had to guess based on what I've seen so far, my guess is that her dad is probably really abusive. But she's like, her way of kind of like coping or dealing with that is he's basically become her kind of like idol thing, or she's looking up to a lot of what he's saying, and then in turn the positive feedback loop is like maybe he abuses her a bit less or whatever, and then she just becomes like basically a little mini clone of him. That's like very like preemptive, but maybe not, I'm not sure, I can't tell. These are like very brief interactions I'm seeing, so I could be off on a lot there, but that's kind of what it seems like right now. Is that she's going to be like a little mini machine that's copying a lot of his opinions because of the way that he's kind of like treated them growing up. But also, I have no idea. This is very, very, very preemptive, but we'll see.
My living situation.
This is now the devil talk.
Now you're going to threaten my living situation once again. Thank you, Ben. You hate all of the members of your family because you think everybody's against you in life. You think you're the mega victim. Everybody hates you.
I'm done.
Everybody hates you. Look, all of your sons hate you. Oh, poor me. My sons hate me. That's why they love me. Oh, they hate me so much. So does my wife. Oh, so does my other daughter. Oh, everybody's against me. I'm a little bitch boy. He's gonna cry about it on the internet all day. Oh, poor me. Baby, you're like a baby. That's what a baby does. Cries about how his wife
out of it. It's just unbelievable.
Have wrong.
Do you think most people respond her way in her situation, or is this some special thing in her brain making her submit? No, it's just this normal like parent-child thing, right? People respond to abusive parents in different ways. But like she probably doesn't even see it as abuse, right? It also makes more sense. I have to really care because I'm like psychoanalyzing, or I'm like mind reading a lot here. But like a lot of the way that she's analyzing the Crowder stuff makes sense for that not being abusive, because she probably sees a lot of her father's behaviors in the way that Crowder interacts. Actually, her father probably does a lot worse. But if she were to acknowledge that Crowder is abusive in some ways, she'd have to acknowledge her father is abusive in some ways. Who did I talk to the other day about this on my stream in my chat? Was it the Indian guy, Scribble? About how I actually think there's like a weird double I haven't thought about this too much, so I might 180 this completely. There's just a feeling I have that I haven't spent a lot of time putting into words. But I feel like people have a weird thing where their parents are their gods. And even if we verbalize the opposite, we truly don't feel that way. A really, really good example. Have we watched this on stream before? I feel like this is a really good example of this. So this guy is like coming into town. This is Will's dad. He comes into town to hang out with Will, and Will's really excited because he hasn't seen his dad very much. And now his dad's finally ready to take Will and go travel around the world with him, basically.
Lou, if you walk out of Will's life now, don't you ever come back.
Some business came up I gotta handle. So we're gonna have to put our trip on hold.
Hey, why should I be mad? I'm saying, at least he said goodbye this time. How come he don't want me, man?
Rip. I feel like a lot of, but I know that we had that discussion where somebody said that, I think we had a disagreement over how people's trauma with their parents manifests. But I truly do feel like a lot of people, because I've talked to people, like good, successful people, well into their 30s even, that are doing good in life, and they still carry with them like some kind of like attachment issue with parents. It's very, 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 very hard to see your parents as being flawed, even if you hate them, even if you say you hate them, even if you, even if you like, oh, I'm blah blah blah, like it seems like people, it like outwardly it might manifest that way, but like internally they still have a really huge problem getting over it. But I might be reaching, but now it makes sense why she was so insistent on having you can see that the Crowder stuff wasn't abusive before anything come up. Yeah, sure, because it's very hard to accept fault in your parents. It's very, very, very difficult to do it.
Him his whole life. That's what he does. Little baby Ben. Cries how his sons and his wife wronged him for the rest of his life because he's a quote-unquote traditional guy who's got himself together. Yeah, right, Ben.
Yes, I'm a great guy.
You're a traditional guy. That's why
I'm a great guy.
That's why all of your children, you don't talk to any of them.
Right,
you
because
hate
you
them.
punish.
Because they're against you,
You
right?
won't let me talk.
Oh,
Why won't you let your
against
father
you,
talk
Ben.
to you?
All
Why
of your
won't you
children
let
are
your
against
father
you,
talk
right?
to you?
That's why
won't you let your father talk to you?
How they're
Why won't you let your father talk to you?
Throw it in their face all the time.
Burn in hell, you
daughter and your sons are
Jesus
nice people,
Christ.
and you hate them.
Hey,
for
you
no
rot in hell for.
What a baby. Yeah, Ben rage quitted, and so did his daughter.
John.
Spirit.
John, don't you think this is exactly what Mom wants? Is you screaming
Yes,
at Dad?
because everything has to do with your dynamics between your parents. That's what your entire life should be centered around, Gracie. I'm not like you, Gracie. I don't center my entire life around the
Something else. Oh, we should spend. Oh, I bet this family is really interesting for abuse dynamics. Another really effective way. My grandma did a lot of this with me and my sister, and in retrospect, I can see a lot of manipulation tactics that she used. But at the time, I was just like, I think I spent from like 8 years old to like 12 years old with her. Like almost every weekend I'd go over. So it was. I didn't see it as a kid because I'm a dumb. Because I'm a kid. I have an excuse to be a dumb fuck. One really effective manipulation tactic when it comes from children is to have a child. When you have your child, you externalize every bad thought that they have on the enemy parent. So if you're a dad or a mom and you're trying to take advantage of your child, anytime you run into issues or anytime they're having doubts or a problem, you always externalize that problem to the other parent. What she just said right there, like, don't you think this is what mom wants? Like, anytime you have an issue, it's because mom is saying this. Mom is trying to make you feel this way. It's because mom is turning you against me. It's because mom is the one that said this thing. That's why you feel this way, right? And it's a very easy way to kind of like mind somebody into thinking like, yeah, if I have an issue, it is with the other parent. You're right, and I trust you. I think you're guiding me well. You're telling me, like, as an authority figure, super easy to turn somebody against somebody else that way, if that's what's going on. Also, this is a little premature, to be fair, because I haven't seen much, but this is like what it's pointing that direction of.
Dynamics of my older parents, 20 years old, and all you do is cry about how your mommy doesn't feed you enough or something. 20 years old, you can't do anything with your life.
You literally just said
why don't you go find a man who will like beat you? Because I think that's the only way that you will be happy in life is if you have a guy who tells you to shut the up and stop crying about your mommy all the time, because that's not what everybody's like.
You
about.
literally
that's what that's what people who have no like free thinking do. They just attribute everything to other people in their life. Everything is your fault. Everything is your fault. Everything is your fault.
Are you ever gonna
mommy?
stop?
Everything is your
Do
fault.
not
I
do
can never
this.
change. Oh, don't do this. Okay, you got me. I won't do this anymore. You won. You're the alpha. You won. Nobody can hear you. You muted yourself. Don't you think Ben has like a gay way of sitting and looking? It's just gay. I don't know how to say it. Like, you're not like the like manly looking guy here. You're like looking at your screen like a little princess. Snooty. All snooty. Got your nose turned up because you're better than this. With your gay little hat on that I bought you as a Father's Day gift because I hate you so much. Looking at your screen, looking at me, hating me.
You do die of starvation. I hope you die of starvation, and I hope you are thrown out of that apartment.
Oh my God.
Nice.
Yep.
Good, thank you.
I'll go to the landlord right now.
What did I do in this apartment? Did I jerk off or
apartment.
something? I don't know what I did. What did I do?
You have 5 cats in that apartment.
I can tell my landlord that, and I'll tell my landlord that you're living downstairs like a weirdo, smoking his apartment away. That's not even an apartment. It's a commercial space, buddy.
You don't live down here. I'll be living up there.
Yeah, you do, buddy. Yeah, well, you live down here right now, and you're smoking away.
You want to go? You want to go?
No, I don't want to go.
John, you have been unbelievably irresponsible up there, John.
How? What have I done? I don't know why
you come up there and beat the shit out of you. I'm going to beat the shit out of you.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna beat your knee, so you'll need another surgery.
Cool guy. You're a cool guy.
I will.
Man. Yes,
I will.
You're
I think
the alpha.
twice.
You're the alpha. You know what? If I died that way, then so be it. I hope you rot in hell for saying that, because I don't know what you're saying, but that's not a nice thing to say. I never said I was gonna physically assault you and beat your broken knee.
Yes, you should never do that to your father. But
you should never do that to your son, buddy. You're not like a traditional man who's like a cool guy and he told his son he's gonna beat his ass.
Yeah,
you're not a cool guy, buddy.
And as I beat your head,
lights the cigarettes like a no offense, but you do. Your whole like smoking thing is gay
now
too.
It's no offense. No offense. Oh, thank you so much.
That's the joke. But
you're not being offensive
because you're a cringy boomer. But gay. I don't know. You're the way you like just picked at your lip is gay.
Boot this.
Yeah, boot me. This is. I really care. I really care. Thank you, Ben, for letting me talk shit about you.
You get lost.
Thank you.
Unless you can behave. You want to behave?
No. I don't know what behaving means. Act like Grace.
Boot yourself.
Should I act like Grace? Should I act like Grace? Would that be behaving?
Yes.
Be your little slave, weirdo slave girl? Because that's what she is. She's your weirdo little slave.
So you're
girl.
here to talk to your dad, right? But you won't let him talk? Can you let me talk now? Okay, enough speeches.
This is a Discord call. You don't have anything else to do in your day.
I don't want to listen to your insolence. I do not.
What do you have to do all day? What are you going to do after this? Cry in your bed?
I do not want. I don't have to listen to your horse shit.
Okay. Yeah, you don't.
You can
You're
boot me
18
whenever
years
you
old.
want. You have.
I never have to talk to you
now.
again. I never have to talk to you again. You can go.
I would love that. You don't talk to me anyways.
Go,
And the
go
only
ahead,
time you
go.
do talk to me is when you quote
Flip
unquote
off.
ask for
Goodbye.
help.
Go ahead.
12
Go
a.m.
ahead. Do it. Follow through. Go
Okay.
ahead. Flip
Oh.
off. Fuck you. Never come back. Go
Okay.
move away. F you.
Okay. You
Try
got
to
me,
someone
buddy.
else. F you.
You got me, buddy.
Go
You
ahead.
won.
Blip off, big guy.
I never said I'm gonna blip off myself. You were the one
You
who said
said
you
I
were
never
never
want
gonna
to talk to you again.
I never
Go
said
ahead
I was
and
gonna
follow
talk to
through.
you
You
again. See, this is what
Jesus Christ.
you're just such a hypocrite. You're the one who said you were gonna never talk to me again. I never said that about you.
Yes, you did.
No, I just said that if
I
that
said
is the
I
way it
never
was-
have to talk to you again, and you said, "Oh, I'd love that." So go love it.
Well, why
Flip
don't you
off,
go love it?
Get
You were the one who
lost, call a
threatened it in the
taxi,
first
and
place.
never talk to me again.
You were the one who threatened it in the
Goodbye.
Okay, buddy. You were the one who threatened it in
Goodbye.
the first place, Alpha Wolf.
Goodbye. Go cry to someone else. I don't want to hear it.
Why would an alpha guy dress like you and smoke like you?
Oh
It's
my
just gay.
God.
You're not an alpha. You're a wannabe
I
tough
don't
guy.
want to hear it. So
No,
get lost.
Okay, I'll give you my
Let's just-
psychoanalysis of you. You're a wannabe.
If you hopped
tough
on this
guy
might seem crazy, but this
who was
family's
a bit of
sorry.
a beta
You're talking
earlier
else.
in his life, and he figured out that was a loser
Different
way to
analysis
go.
than me or
So,
anything else.
Now he's trying
Go
to be
away
a
and
cool,
never come
tough
back.
guy, and I think you should just give up the act and act like a nice guy, which you are, instead of a.
Oh, and I bet she picked up the smoking from her father too. True.
Cute. It was.
break.
My dad helped me so much. You wouldn't
She really does sound 100% like Jade, right?
believe. It's like, I want both of us to blow up. He helped me so much. I was so nervous. I was like,
Oh, and her dad helped her
Cute.
prepare. It makes so much sense.
it was. My dad helped me so much. You wouldn't believe. It's like, I want both of us to blow up. He helped me so much. I was so nervous. I was like, ah.
Imagine having a debate where the person that's abusing you is trying to convince you that somebody else isn't being abusive, which is my perspective, right? Jesus.
You could see you could crush him, but like winning the debate.
Who's this
isn't,
guy?
Necessarily what it's about for him. You got the entertainment aspect to the crowd, the various value propositions for people watching versus the actual argument. But I think you saw that.
Holy Jesus.
Crazed, an irrational alpha retard, and I think you're trying to cover up something. I don't know. I don't think
What have I ever done to you that weren't?
I don't think I'm siding with my mom. It's just that my mom is the only person that can help me in a real way. I don't tell you.
Loser, fat mouth sometimes.
I can't talk. You get to control how I talk because you're the alpha. Okay, I get it.
God
Whenever you
damn
feel like
you.
it, you can hold your hand up
damn,
and say
what a
stop
loser.
talking, and they get
What a
angry when you stop
loser.
talking. I
What
get
a
it. You're
loser.
the alpha of the world.
John.
You beat everybody.
Oh, and I bet when remember how she said she dropped out of high school? I bet she didn't drop out. I bet her dad made her drop out. Guess, that's a total guess, but
Everybody here because everybody, if you gave them a chance, would disappoint you, and then you'd scream at them and ask them to apologize like you did to Daniel.
Okay, you can talk and then I can talk. How about that for a rule?
Is you talk at me, and that's not a good thing.
John, you are bringing damnation onto your head by doing what you're doing.
Yes, God hates me, right? God hates me. I think God loves me.
God hates what you're doing.
Don't worry about God right now.
God loves
in my
you,
life.
but God hates
well,
what you're
I don't
doing
think
right
I'm
now.
condemning myself with anything I
I
say.
think
And
you are.
You're wrong for using that against people all the time, as if you're God.
oh, brother, I was just gonna pause and say that, but it could be another avenue for abuse too. She said that they were Catholic. Presenting yourself as hyper-religious and then saying that the things you say are the things that God wills is also an interesting way to like manipulate a person, right? Like, you can't disobey me. This is literally like what God would say, basically, right?
You're not God. You're not the prophet of God. You shouldn't use that as a way to say you're going to go to hell whenever you feel like it. I think the way you've treated me as someone
doing
condemned you
evil.
to hell in a way.
You are doing
need to
evil now.
You're
Stop
gonna have to repent
doing evil.
because of the way you've acted towards
Stop
me, at least.
doing evil. Stop it. Woman, and I talk to
I
the
don't
man.
talk like an angry woman. You talk
Yes,
like
you
an
do.
angry woman.
Is this guy's YouTube video just this whole conversation, or
everybody in
Jesus?
his life. That's what you act
shouldn't
like.
do this. You should
Well, that's
not
what you
say
act- I'm
stuff
saying
like that.
That's what you act
You
like.
are bringing damnation
That's
onto
what you
yourself by
act
doing
like. I'm
this.
saying-
Shut up. Shut your fat mouth for 1 minute.
Yes, you're acting a little hysterical right now, Ben. It's very womanly.
You're a bitch, obviously, too. If you, after this 20 minutes, you say, I'm the one who's spurging. You are a little bitch
the one who's
boy.
spurging. You always spurg because you're a baby, and you use, like, quote-unquote, etiquette of conversation as your way of spurging, and it's not...
You're so scared of me.
Right. Jeffrey Dahmer is on your side, John. All right?
Yeah.
Pursue it with him. You will find that he is not someone
Everybody's on my side.
Want to associate. No, that's not true.
RSDA.
Hey, Jeffrey Dahmer is a good guy.
A video that Grace made about her mom. A short clip from my mom's last stream. 51 years old, 6 children, absolutely batshit crazy.
It's from the 80s, just ahead.
What is this?
I'm a really good guy.
He is.
Yeah, but it's not clear that he isn't also trolling at the same time. But whatever.
I'm not trolling John. I think John is 100% right about your family.
You think
the
that
only
he's
one
been
of you that is
respectful?
sane.
He's been.
He doesn't need to be respectful to you.
Okay, so you don't
There's
think
no
that
reason for him to respect
he's
you.
going to do the same thing.
No,
as you,
sons should
right?
respect their fathers, but you haven't been a father to your son, so why should he respect you?
Right. Okay. I think a son should always respect his father, and I think that anyone who says otherwise.
Yeah, we know you think this because you hate your own father, and you have this.
I do not hate my father, and I respect him too.
I don't know how you could say anything else.
No.
Okay, you don't like him very much.
He is in the clutches of. I can't talk though, right? I can't talk. Can we
That's
say?
not how you
John,
talk to people. That's not how
John,
you talk
can,
to people.
okay,
I'm sorry.
Okay, now you're talking. You're saying how to talk to people.
You just freak
Are you
out
interested in listening to anyone other than yourself screaming?
You can talk over me if you want, and then it's mostly when you're on a Discord call because we're not in person. It's kind of hard to know the cues. So sometimes it's better to just talk over somebody until they shut up. Yes, that's how it works sometimes on a Discord call.
Sometimes that works. Sometimes you listen to other people.
Yes, but it's kind of hard.
Okay, 4 more minutes and I'm leaving, okay?
Talking when it's so low.
Here's a suggestion. Why don't you shut your mouth for a few minutes?
That's not very respectful to the conversation.
Yeah,
Yelling that at somebody. I'm not a little kid anymore. You shouldn't yell that at me.
Shut your mouth for a few minutes.
That's called ad hominem.
Sus.
John, are you having a good time in my Discord?
Why do you keep saying that? I can leave whenever I want.
Are you? Seems like you are. Can you just say I'm having a good time
having a good time
in your
yelling at you.
Discord? Okay, you're enjoying yourself. Okay, can I make a suggestion as the person who's running this Discord that maybe you just take a little bit of a breather now? We get the message. You're angry and you're a victim of everything and everyone. I think everyone gets that. Maybe other people could say something. John, this guy who is allying himself with you is a complete and utter loser.
But I don't think that. Oh, Provo?
Not at the core, but like on the surface.
Provo?
He has said that he can't stay awake ever any day for the rest of his life. No, Snick.
Yeah, for context, Jerome, he's got like a neurological illness.
It's called I Hate My Father. Same illness that you have, John.
He doesn't even have a neurological illness. He just sleeps all day anyways. Unfortunately. In what way are you a religious man?
Okay, be quiet. Be quiet. Yeah, let me tell you what I'm saying. John was on Oxycontin, right? That's an opioid. He could say to me, Dad, I became hooked on Oxycontin, and I don't know the lingo. Whatever the fuck it is, loser pills, okay? Loser pills.
Them for a couple days. I have most of them saved.
A lot of people like John will say, you know, a month from now, look, I became addicted to opioids and now I'm an opioid addict. And they would say, what are you going to do about it? And I would tell him, go f yourself. That's what I'm going to do.
Sorry.
Okay, John.
Not really that big of a host.
I don't understand why he can't just go to his Discord and do what he wants.
I can ban him. Do you want me to ban him? That's easier.
All right, we'll ban you. That's fine. We'll ban him.
Bitches
That's
are.
what he wants to do. He doesn't want to be respectful. Do you want to make like all these retards can go to your Discord?
Fries are busting.
In 2 seconds. So why don't you go to your Discord? I don't care.
Wow, Ben killed a fucking PC.
You muted yourself, guys.
I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet. It's more, I just want to listen.
No, I don't want you here.
Look.
Guys, stop with the gay
Okay, he's still here. Do you want him here? I can ban him. I can kick him.
Next, we'll take a look at Ben and Grace's relationship. It was very common when the Thorps were doing voice calls.
Okay. I gotta go see my good friend Dan the man.
Into victim mode and was just being really, really hostile. And
Ben Thorp is a 50.
What time was I just at? Does anybody? 30:06. Thank you. That's it.
House. What Ben fails to mention is that she was banished to the studio Ben rents, which is about 15 steps away from their front door.
See, we talked for a long time yesterday about this thing with Feeney and these ladies, but she woke up this morning and went right into victim mode and was just being really, really hostile. And, you know, I spent the whole day yesterday investing in being supportive and being, you know, trying to present her with the vision that but in the end, she has to want to do that. And I don't want her to be sitting here kicking me in the balls.
I thought you said that's what.
Daniel, I'll tell you what it is because you were asking about this. This is what it is. There is a trauma. Something happened to her. And she wants to replay the trauma, this time as the person who's in charge. You know that routine? There's a real temptation to abuse others as a way of solving the problem. But all you do is make it worse. And you end up with massive guilt for it, right?
Yeah, I understand.
But it's also very tempting to do. And the way you have to solve that problem is that you have to go through this trauma. It doesn't have to take a million years, and you have to like understand that in some way you were not the victim of that trauma.
You keep almost getting there, but what's actually the behavior? Because I still can't quite get my head around that.
What's the trauma?
No, the behavior. So why is Grace kicked out? Like literally, why is she kicked out?
Okay, so I would say in short, literally all day yesterday, I was saying, Grace, I would like you to get some space. And we had all these people spent like a large part of their day. And I know it's somewhat entertaining, but also I think people do invest. And, you know, trying to say like, okay, Grace, there's a way in which, yes, it would be good for you to get some movement away from me. And some of them were saying the most extreme things, like you got to get out of there, you're being abused. Okay, but I was saying like, okay, but I do agree somewhat with this idea of getting some distance and not being so intertwined with me. I think it's unhealthy. So in response to that, after getting off Discord, she was extremely agitated. And I was like, okay, why don't you just go to sleep? I'll go to sleep. We'll see you in the morning. And she woke up feeling also like really, really angry. Now, this is the part that drives me to homicide. I'm trying to help her and I'm trying to be gentle and I'm trying to say this would be good for you. And she is saying, fuck you. I want it to be unhealthy.
Right.
I want you to tell me that I'm a victim all the time.
But she's not saying that literally, right?
Well, it's like, okay, so I spent 10 hours with you yesterday. So I get up and we have a thing where Grace does a nominal, you know, like in the morning, she'll make some coffee, but she's like, I don't want to get up. I'm not getting enough sleep. You know, and it's just this hostility. And then it's like, okay, all right, I'll make the coffee or whatever. She made the coffee. And then I was like, you know, I was kind of hoping that she would sort of take some initiative today to say like, okay, let me get more into that. And instead she just flakes off on the phone without telling me for like 2 hours. I'm watching TV, watching some, you know, stuff that I'm doing, like Catholic stuff on YouTube. And she's just acting totally antisocial. And then I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, you know, and acting all autistic. And it's like, you know, I just got furious because I'm like, what are you doing? You're not going to communicate now. You're punishing me. This is what I find infuriating. You're punishing me for spending the whole day yesterday trying to get you. This was the problem with her mother too. I said like, this relationship is too intense. If you know what you're supposed to be doing, then you should do it. It's not about me yelling at you. But she always made it maximally chaotic so that every conversation had to be about like, what the is going on here? Place out in here. I got us a studio, a storage area. I was building the infrastructure. And so it was sabotaged by her and her mother. It just was. It was like, nope, I want you at gunpoint structure. And she says, I want chaos so that I can feel like a victim. And what do you do? I always say, like, I think it's
crazy that he talks about her. He talks like they're equals. Like he's like, she's got trauma. We're trying to work through it. We're doing this, blah, 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 blah. Rather than like, you're her dad, you know? It's like, it's very strange. This the way that he speaks about her. It almost sounds like I'm not saying there's like incest shit going on, but it sounds like a couple fighting or talking about problems rather than like, I'm her father, and this is what we need to do to fix this thing. It's like very interesting.
Sense of reason should rule things, and your emotions should go in the back door or garbage can. And so it's just this war. Like, I don't care about your emotions. She says, I don't know. I'm not feeling inspired. But when I tell her, why don't you do this? She gets angry at me. And I think that's because there's a basic irrationality, an addiction to chaos. Because when it's chaotic, she can claim to be a victim. Now, does she really want to do that? No. But she's addicted to abusing me.
I do think that's, I don't know.
I told her this morning sincerely that I wanted to kill her, and I wanted to punch my fist through her fucking face, through her fucking stupid brain, and out the back of her skull. Instead of leaving, she stayed, and stayed and got really physically close to me while claiming, right? What the fuck is wrong with someone who does that? They don't care about living or dying. All they care about is maximizing the chaos that they're creating for you. I meant it, and she knows I meant it. She knows I meant what I was saying. I want to finish my thing about going up there, punching his fucking knee so many times that the bottom half of his fucking leg starts becoming unattached from the top part, ripping it off his body and throwing it down the wall. I'd love it if you recorded it and actually.
I think he's talking about his son here, unironically.
He took me to court, and I had to show up in court and have it played for the judge. And I said, Judge, I stand behind every word of that. The thing I regret, I do not regret damning his soul to hell or telling him to beat the shit out of him. That's my only regret, is I didn't get to finish it. New idea for Grace, so that I don't end up killing her like I wanted to this morning. She can do her project that she wants to do of manipulating guys, but she wants to spend the whole rest of her life saying how hard it is to like deal with me. And, you know, I think that's kind of loserish at a certain point, you know what I mean? Like, it's been 5 years of saying like it's hard to get along with you. And I do understand that if you keep doing that with someone like me, like you know what I mean? It can be this kind of endlessly fascinating loop of driving someone to want to kill you and then acting like a victim and then apologize. It's stupid though, isn't it? I mean, you're gonna spend your whole life doing that. You're like semi-hostile with people, like manipulating them. Like, maybe I'm gonna give it away, but like, it's not worth even trying. But like, her and a bunch of women could get this loser Daniel to cam up, right? By like manipulating him into saying like, actually, you're really handsome, which is a lie, of course, or whatever, right? But I'm just saying, lady, and I think she would be a great friend of Grace's. But what I want to do, Sonny, is have the women, you know how they do this, you don't really do it with me, this like Mac Daddy kind of thing, because I know you're with Unleashed, so I don't do that with you. But they all do this thing with me about like, I'm not gonna suck your big dick. This guy Feeney, who's been on my show, and Grace has a chance to manipulate him, sexually without.
Is that bald dude? That bald dude to come on?
I wonder if she reached out to me because he told her to. I'm so curious. Actually, I know she did.
No, that's Phil.
The problem with
Feeney is bald too, though. Feeney is pretty much bald.
The problem with Feeney is every time I look at him with his little chicken hair, I want to laugh. Like, I have to, stop laughing every time I see him.
Yeah, you have to stop laughing and be serious about what you want to do, because this could launch you into the stratosphere. You'd be doing news shows. You could be on Tucker Carlson about. Well, I don't know about Tucker. Someone would interview you about it, because it's a fascinating story. You could do a Netflix series on it. You can do right now. The whole thing's like in hiatus. It's just sitting there. There's no reason we shouldn't act. But I was like, well, before I do this, I want to take some. I just want to be making sure that I'm not doing it.
Oh no. I shouldn't go to the gym tonight. Wow. What's up? We got all sorts of activity going on in here. Well, how you guys doing? It's pretty late for you guys over up in Rhode Island, almost 1 a.m.
Yes. We're very excited about our debate tomorrow with you, Stephen.
It's definitely gonna be an interesting one.
It's gonna be fun.
Thanks for taking that. I thought you were gonna take it with Grace because you were one of the outliers, but then you shifted sides to cover your ass.
Well, I didn't shift sides. I just my initial position was one of hesitancy to be fully judgmental, but I still think it was pretty obvious that Crowder was abusive. And
well, I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, I never know who's kidding because I literally just met you, so.
We are taking the extreme. We're taking the extreme position.
Yeah, I noticed.
And yours is not really the opposite. Yours is not the opposite extreme, really. You're about as far over to our side as any mainstream commentator that I've seen, except the red pill guys, Fresh and Fit.
Yeah, that's possibly true. All right. So, what do you guys think about your family dynamic? I'm curious.
Well, I'll let you take the floor. I've already talked about it on here.
Just so you know, the video that you were watching there was made by a hyper troll who is the leader of a pack of people on the internet who take they call them lol cows. They take vulnerable people, including a lot of times people who are transitioning and going through the hormones, and try to get them to harm themselves. And one thing, I don't know that one of the rumors about them is that they got a mentally retarded guy to eat his own feces, and he ended up in the hospital and maybe dead. So that's not exactly like an objective documentary. Nonetheless, the clips are real. Most of them are from Discords that I didn't realize were being secretly taped. That's not mostly YouTube video. But whatever, it is what it is.
What parts of the video do you think are unfair representations? I'm curious.
Well, all the stuff that's his edit. Like, for example, I can give you one that you would not, you would understand. He says at one point, they hail from Rhode Island, the infernal hell known as Rhode Island, the incest capital of the world. Well, I don't know what he's talking about. Rhode Island is not known as the... I don't know that we have any higher or lower incest rates than anywhere else. Nor is it an infernal hell. It's a beautiful, beautiful state. But so all of his edits are filled with lies, and I have threatened a lawsuit on him, but I just hope he edits it. It's fine if he uses the clips, even though I didn't realize I was being recorded. It's fine. But all of the he put out a video claiming that I sexted Grace when she was 15 years old, when in fact whatever it was that she may have sent me a jokingly what do you call those emojis? An eggplant emoji when she was 18. So that's not sexting, and it isn't underage. But whatever.
There was a whole thing. My brother.
In a certain sense, it's more interesting.
Anyways.
So the way this family dynamic happened is, and this actually is related to the Crowder thing, but don't assume just because there's something similar that it's projection, right? That's not fair. It can be that there's just an actual similarity. So we had this problem from the beginning. I think you were raised Catholic, is that right?
Yeah, don't worry about me though. But go ahead.
Okay, but so you understand the concept like that. So I was a Catholic school teacher, so you maybe understand the concept. I don't think we were married in retrospect because you know what an annulment is? You've heard of an annulment. So
yeah, it's the way in the Catholic marriage you formally dissolve a marriage in the eyes of God. It's not just through a divorce.
No, you don't formally dissolve a marriage.
Or you say it never technically was a real marriage. Yeah.
No, you shouldn't roll your eyes. That's not. It's not the same thing. But anyways, you could roll your eyes. Yeah. So I didn't realize I had been abused. A similar family dynamic happened where I was abused by my mother. My father tolerated it. So when I got into a relationship and we had kids, and I was Catholic, right? So we had lots of kids. I didn't realize this dynamic was happening until Grace, who was the oldest, I could start to see the abuse from her mother to her. And then I recognized, oh, there's something really, really off here. So we spent about we had a lot of wealth. So
can I just, so I can understand who everybody is,
yeah.
So this is ex-wife or annulled wife? Is Grace's mom, is it one mom for all 5 children?
I call her my ex.
Sure.
Because she's not my ex-wife because we haven't gotten a divorce.
Gotcha.
And
your ex.
So I don't know what you call someone you've been annulled from, but I haven't been annulled from her either.
Okay, sure. Your ex. That's Grace's mom and everybody else's
her
mom.
name is Courtney. Her name is Courtney.
Gotcha. Okay.
She has her own
6 kids
channel.
also.
And
6
I have
kids.
6 beautiful kids. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Grace is the oldest.
Okay.
And the youngest is 11. 2 adults, 4 minors.
Well, I'm sorry. Wait, real quick. What were the ages again? Yeah, hit me up with that. Again.
11, 13, 15, 17, 18, and 20.
Gotcha. Okay.
So not little kids. Anyways, I saw this abuse going on. I said, this has got to stop. It went on for about 4 years of endless conversations. Grace got pulled into it as the oldest daughter because it was the abuse of her that I was concerned with. So that became part of it. And then it was like 6 hours a day. I swear to you, 6 hours a day of just, what is the problem here? Right?
What kind of,
sometimes 8 or 9 hours a day.
Yep.
We were self-employed, so we had a little bit of flexibility, but it was just brutal.
Mm-hmm. What kind of abuse? What kind of abuse are we talking here?
So nothing physical, but I think that what happened is, what happens with some people is they cannot relate to others except in terms of power. And so what I noticed, and this I would say to the young men out there is a big one. When the kids were young, she was great, happy, because kids can't reject you. So that doesn't necessarily mean you have someone who can be a mother on your hands. But when the kids got to an age where they could reject her, she rejected them first. And it was either neglect or sort of hostility and power. And I think that comes from immaturity. I'm not saying morally that's a problem, but it is a problem if someone doesn't have the tools to do something that they're trying to do. And they only understand relationships in terms of power. And that comes from, I think, from her family's dynamic. And I had that in my family, but I was able to, I think, learn and grow. And maybe that's because the abuse I had suffered was less intense. But
so real quick, when we say
that's my perspective, of course.
So the main type of abuse we're talking here then is just neglect of children, or
neglect, and sort of I would say emotional abuse.
What kind of emotional abuse?
Nothing where you end up in a hospital.
Yeah, what kind of emotional abuse?
I mean,
right, Grace can talk about that.
I can explain it. So it would kind of be like, so once we got to about 8 or 9 years old, and I saw this happen with me and then with my siblings as they got to that age, she would kind of like, she kind of closed off. So she would either be like very, very cold and kind of distant and like about ourselves or relate to us, or she would be super emotionally invested, but like really very angry. So she'd say like, "You're full of shit" or something like that. And it seemed kind of like she wanted to be a parent and like correct us, but it was just like very, very hostile. And it was just this big back and forth between like guilt and leaving us alone, and then engagement, but like super hostility was my experience of it.
Okay. Can I ask you a question? How old were you when you first noticed this type of behavior?
I would say when my family started the restaurant, she kind of threw me, she kind of said like, you need to be the mom to your siblings. And then I'd try to help her around the kitchen and stuff, and she'd be very, very sort of like, you fucked up making that, like, like, I don't know how to say it. It just was very cold. Like, get these dishes out, get this stuff out. And then I knew she would feel guilty about it. So when we went home, she would just kind of leave me alone, and I would just be in my room kind of lonely, and I didn't really know what was going on. And it just got worse from there until it really stopped talking once I reached like 14 or so.
Gotcha. So you would say that this type of behavior began when you were around 13, 14?
Oh no, 8 or 9.
Okay, this happened.
The restaurant started when I was 8 or 9.
See what happened, even in the restaurant, you see the same
2012,
pattern.
I think.
We had an Ethiopian restaurant, so we hired Ethiopian refugees. So we were like, it was a strange business because the owners were not Ethiopian, but we had like the most black employees you could ever have. And but she wasn't able to relate as a manager. As a manager, you have to delegate tasks. So she actually alienated all the workers. They'd be standing around speaking Amharic, the language of Ethiopia. She'd be doing all the work, and then she'd be exhausted. And Grace was stuffed upstairs to be the mother of the kids, which was not how it was supposed to go.
Real quick, when you say upstairs, was this restaurant ran out of your house, or do you mean like the kids would go to the restaurant, or what do you mean when you say upstairs?
Were near, so we semi-lived there. We were near Brown University in Providence, which is, a kind of place where an Ethiopian restaurant, which is an unusual cuisine, but it's got vegan. So it's a great location, but it had 3 floors. And the 3rd floor was, we used 2 floors for the restaurant. The 3rd floor was like this, it was like not up to snuff. You could look through remember that, Chris? You could look through the
in the bathroom
down to the floor below. But I mean, it was okay. But it was like, the idea was just like, let's just get started. But once this restaurant started running, her mother turned to it was just panic mode 24 hours a day. And there was never like a way to get above it, if you know what I mean. And just say like, okay, let's do what makes sense. Let's delegate. So I understand that. And she was a very hard worker. And she actually gave herself carpal tunnel syndrome from making, I don't know if you've ever had Ethiopian food. It's that flatbread with holes in it.
Okay. Gotcha.
Delicious food. You can look it up. People say we're fake. You can look up Abyssinia Restaurant in Providence. Mm-hmm. We were in the New York Times, but like behind the scenes, there was this craziness going on where a 9-year-old girl is acting as the mother for her homeschooled kids who were not being homeschooled, while it was just crazy. And I was out back smoking cigarettes going like, I can't get a hold of this. Because once the ball started rolling, it just became an endless emergency.
So
it was a weird dynamic there.
Sure. So Grace, you said that she was abusive from when you were about 8 to 9 all the way up until you were 14 is when she stopped the restaurant, or when you guys stopped the restaurant, or?
The restaurant the restaurant closed when I was 13, I think. Then I said I don't want to be homeschooled anymore. Went to 8th grade and started going to high school after that. Once I got into high school, actually once I started going to 8th grade, we basically stopped talking at all. Except if she would ask me to do something, but like there was really no connection at all. And yeah, so
but
then
her mother had felt bad about the place she was put in. So she eased off so much that she was living with a Nigerian family for an entire year, pretty much.
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, I had a Nigerian friend and I would stay at her house like every single day and most weekends. So I kind of like lived apart from the family essentially, which was okay. It's fun.
What, just curious, how old were you when you felt like you noticed your mom being abusive?
Well, I never really attributed it to her at first. I guess I would say, like, probably it took me until I was 16 or 17 to say, like, actually that was... I mean, I always thought she was harsh, but I just kind of thought, like, that's just her personality. And then I was like, well, actually, it was kind of, like, too harsh. She was expecting too much, and it didn't make any sense. But, you know, I kind of just thought, like, well, she would play the guilt game, so she'd be like, you don't want to help this family because you're selfish. And so I never really blamed her, I just blamed myself and internalized it, so it took me a while.
Well, I can tell you exactly when it happened, because I was getting this narrative that you're a brat, that you're unruly, that you're rebellious, and I looked through Grace's phone just to see what was up with her, because I barely knew her at that point. And I had issues of my own. I was depressed half the time and manic half the time. And I saw some interactions she had with her friends, and I was like, this girl is actually a wonderfully nice person. So my narrative that I was getting from her mother...
while she was taking care of the kids, you were outside smoking cigs. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I immediately said, Grace, there's something way off here. And that's when the shit hit the fan.
Yeah, but even when you said that, it took me a while to
so
say,
then my
like,
kind of
what was going on here.
Yeah, so kind of my question is do you feel like your dad was the one that basically brought this to your attention, kind of?
I mean, it was just so distant with her that I'd kind of internalized it all, and I kind of said, like, well, whatever, I guess I'm just a bad girl who wants to be on her own and doesn't care about her family, so I was just like, well, I'm just gonna go with it at this point. And then when he kind of reached out to me and he said, like, you know,
well, Grace,
you're not...
Yes, the answer is yes, I brought it to your attention. You don't have to, it's fine.
Well, I know everybody's gonna say that it's like
you don't have to do that, because then you make it look like you're dancing to protect me. Yes, I brought it to your attention.
Okay, fine.
I became aware as a parent that this is not what parenting is supposed to be. That's right.
Yeah.
What were you doing? Just curious. And also, if these questions are too personal, you can always tell me to fuck off. You're not like under arrest or anything, right? What were you doing when the mom was running the restaurant for Ben?
What was I doing? Well, I was managing the restaurant, paying the bills, trying to keep the, trying to manage people. But it was such a disaster that. I was super enthusiastic. I'd work 16-hour days. It was a great idea. I don't know if we were the only Ethiopian restaurant between Boston and New York. So it was like a monopoly. Where we are is, it's a big foodie town, Providence. And the Brown kids loved it. So like on paper it was great, but running it every day, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, I got burned out for sure. And I'm not really a restaurant guy. My idea it was kind of like your classic idiot white guy who's like, I knew some Ethiopians, and I was like, I knew them, they were refugees, wonderful people, and I was like, look, I'll set up a restaurant for you. I had some money, you know what I mean? So I'll sign all the papers, I'll do all the stuff that requires you to know English, and you guys will run the restaurant. But they didn't want to run the restaurant because they were refugees, and they just wanted a stable life. And an entrepreneurial life, running a restaurant, is not a stable life. So they were happy to get their $12, $14 an hour. So this is what happens a lot with Asians too. They're very, very polite people. So they agreed to do this. But then when it actually started, they bolted. You know, so because they couldn't say, no, I'm not going to do this. And I said, you sure you're going to take this over? And they're like, oh, absolutely, Mr. Ben. And so then we took it on. So it wasn't intended to be our family's restaurant, and it wasn't my passion, nor was it Grace's mother's passion. But it was fun. The food was wonderful. It was delicious. But we didn't know really what we were doing.
Gotcha. So, despite it being nobody's passion, you decided to... Is this the first time you've ran a business of your own? It seems like kind of a jump to go from not having passion to restaurants.
Yeah. I had been in real estate. I had been a religion teacher, a Catholic theology teacher, but I mean, it doesn't really pay well when you got 6 kids. So I had some money. It was a strange situation, but I felt like it was sort of like, you know, so I'm a religious guy. I felt like, what's the chance you meet these Ethiopians? You're in a town where Ethiopian food would be the best. And, you know what I mean? Maybe the Lord is giving me, you know, this impetus to do this because I was sick of teaching. Did you go to a Catholic school yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went to a Catholic grade school and then a Jesuit high school, yeah.
Oh, Jesuits, yeah. I went to... I know Father James Martin. Do you know him? The controversial Jesuit. But anyways, I went to a seminary and studied there. But Catholic high schools, Jesuits are a little better, but I think a lot of Catholic high schools, it's just, all education is just, it's really hard to maintain any integrity whatsoever. But, so I was burned out on that.
Something that's kind of confusing is, so if there were Ethiopians that were trying to run the restaurant, and then you were trying to run the restaurant, the
Ethiopians did not want to run the restaurant.
Or okay, we're trying to help, I imagine, or ostensibly they said they were going to help. And then you're trying to run the restaurant. Yeah. How did all of the responsibility of the restaurant seemingly fall onto Grace's mom, Courtney? Yeah. Yeah,
let's say, like, so the idea was she was going to manage. She knew more about food. I don't know, you know. She ended up doing the food part, and I was going to do the managing, the business, the advertising, all that kind of stuff. So. But she couldn't manage the people under her. She couldn't get them to do the work. And refugees are tough because, unlike a lot of immigrants, like refugees can spend years waiting. And so they learn the fine art of like slowing everything down. And, you know, where we were, a lot of, we were where all the kind of ethnic restaurants were. So it was the cheaper area. And you had to be BYOB because the kids were cheap. And so all the restaurants there hired Asians. And before Asians get here, a lot of times they're working like in Indonesia. So it's super hot and super fast. And they're like sort of acclimatized to capitalism, if you know what I mean. But Ethiopians, they're very slow. They had no drug problems, alcohol problems, but they were cutting carrots like, you know, like they were still in the refugee place, and it was just like all day. So
we had that. There was no other people you could hire to work.
So we didn't actually know how to make the food. See, like, so there were only a couple of dozen Ethiopians in the town. So yeah, that would have been smart for us to learn all the recipes, obviously. But we eventually did learn them all. But it wasn't that was the problem, because we could have just been open a few hours on the weekends and done very well. But it had to do with this like creating of a crisis and then being the victim of the crisis. This is what I would say can happen with women. They want to be a victim and a martyr, and it doesn't make any sense, and it gets very frustrating because it doesn't make sense to run a restaurant like it's an emergency every minute. You know what I mean? You have to step back, think, and delegate. So as a couple, we weren't a good business team.
It seems like there might have been reasons, though. I mean, like, if ultimately, especially if you guys wanted a business, I mean, it feels like there was a bit of a crisis for the business itself, though, no?
Yeah. I mean, we sold like $2 million worth of food, which is pretty good for people who didn't know what they were doing. But we paid out like $2.5 million in expenses, especially to... we were very generous with our employees, and, you know, we just didn't have whatever. So it went belly up. And in America, you can try something and fail, and you know, you just got to pick up and move on. It's a great experience.
Who were like the primary investors for the restaurant to get everything off the ground?
Oh, it was me. Well, it was the two of us. And then we had a few $100,000, but that goes in no time.
Mm-hmm. How did you, once the business ceased to exist, were there a lot of like liabilities left to pay off afterwards that you guys had to like worry about?
Yeah, we had to walk away from a lot of stuff. I mean, technically, I still have people calling me, but you know, you can't squeeze blood from a rock, and it was an LLC, so it's like, you know, I was really down because it was like my baby, and I thought we were going to buy the building and everything. It gets a lot easier if you buy the building, but there was just this problem within the family that I think made it all of those other things impossible, because it just wasn't. I mean, it was before any of this stuff. There was a problem. It was a basic problem, a sort of inability to work as a team.
Well, I would just say I remember Mom being super, like, just kind of resentful and angry about the whole restaurant thing. I just remember that, and I kind of was like, oh, that makes sense because she has to work so hard. But I didn't realize
she was always the martyr, and I was always the bad guy. That's how it was.
That was the dynamic. So
I'm the lazy, crazy guy, and she's the martyr who's doing her best, and everyone should sympathize with. It can be very wearisome.
Why do you think she felt that way?
I think that she lacked maturity, you know, and so I just think some people aren't able to do what's necessary in marriage. Like I'm a big guy, right? I'm 6'8". I got a big personality, as you've seen. I'm a lot of husband to handle. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that to like be a Mac Daddy, but like it's hard to be married to a guy like me. And you know, you can either be up for it and have a great time, or you can kind of be intimidated by it and then act like. I think a lot of marriages there becomes this problem. I was, to be honest, sort of, and we've talked about this on stream, so I'm not sharing anything. I was sort of manipulated into marriage. Rather, I wanted to be. I was interested in the priesthood. You can imagine. I went to a Jesuit seminary. I was looking in that direction. I taught at a boys' school, so I wasn't looking for female companionship. That's the last place you're going to find it. But she happened to be working there, and this is. I think of myself as a centrist. Because a lot of this stuff that's on the right, like conservative, is like this white knight type of stuff. So the woman is always a victim. And so, you know, she became pregnant, but because I was manipulated into that, let's just say, like it wasn't what I wanted to do. And then you have to be the white knight, right? We're teaching at a Catholic school. And, you know, so then it becomes just this endless sort of making up for the terrible thing I did to you by you getting pregnant, and it just never ends. And I think it can be something. I think it can be unhealthy.
When you say, just curious, when you say you were manipulated to get married, what do you mean by that?
Well, like, so I would say I don't want to get into too much of the details because, you know, I've got kids and, you know, they may see this, but let's just say my approach was. I remember one of the first conversations I had is like, I don't believe in premarital sex at all. You know, and this wasn't even like we weren't dating. I just said, I don't believe in premarital sex at all. She didn't share that philosophy. And so I'm not saying I was a victim, but, you know, I was like, no birth control, no like being like careful about things. Just don't do it. So, and I think the male drive is much stronger than the female drive. So I do think that women, if you're going to do that women should be more careful. They shouldn't be pulling you into risky situations. But she did. And, you know, so she became pregnant. I admit, I'm not going to say that I was a victim of that situation, but...
you feel like she kind of like baby trapped you, basically? Like,
yeah, I think there is such a thing. Red pillars talk about that, right? Yeah, it's kind of like, I didn't see it. I wasn't thinking that. But there's a way in which a woman can, without being sexually aggressive, create a situation in which it's very difficult for a man to pull away and then blame him for it. I'm not a red pillar. I'm a blue pillar, I think. But yeah, and then when you get pregnant and you're teaching at a Catholic school, and the religion teacher got the English teacher pregnant, and she isn't careful about it and breaks down in the middle of school, and the principal calls her in, then, you know.
And this was before you guys ever got married, right? For her first.
pregnancy?
This was Grace. She was walking around this school building, trolling the school.
Or no, I'm saying when she got pregnant, that was before you guys were married, right?
Yeah, I'm saying that pregnancy was Grace.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
So I'm glad we didn't, even though it's a Catholic school, basically they want you to have an abortion, I think, in a situation like that, because it's embarrassing for the school. And everyone does. Like, everyone's having premarital sex and there's no children. So, yeah.
I ended up trolling that very school into supposedly calling the FBI on me years later, so.
Yeah, we have a whole other thing that we're going to be doing.
Did you say, real quick, so when you guys were at the school, I didn't catch this before, you were both teachers?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it was also a thing, she didn't really like working, so like, since we're trad people, she gets to be the homemaker, and, it was a pretty easy life for her. I was working as a teacher and building like a real estate empire at the same time, and I think she liked that, but she didn't do much of anything except take care of the kids.
Gotcha.
Destiny, why don't you ask the questions you really want to ask? Come on, let's go there.
You wouldn't believe the questions people have asked me.
Well, what questions do you think I? What questions do you think I?
Vanilla.
Well, what questions do you think I really want to ask?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, you sound like these aren't the ones I want to, so I'm curious. What are the questions that you think I?
No, we came
asking?
up through We came up through the hard streets of YouTube, getting hammered, because if you have a father and his daughter, even just when we started off, I was doing in the debate sphere, like the Crucible and stuff like that. People are really not used to seeing a father who has a nice relationship with his daughter, and so immediately, because of pornography and envy and things like this, they immediately go, "Oh, there's something funny going on between those two." And they weren't wrong in the sense that we have an unusual relationship, having gone through this trauma together. But the things people say are just unbelievable. YouTube, people think YouTube death threats. If I push back on it, I was threatened. My life was threatened specifically by someone who's going to come. And, we had to go to the police. People don't think the internet is part of society. And I really do think that's not true. And like this guy who did this Shamu who did this thing, like those are acts of libel. I have a right to my reputation, and I will pursue legal remedies. I don't like to strike on YouTube because I feel like, that keeps the creativity from happening. But if people are going to lie about things about your family, I think you do have a right to say, like, you can't do that or you will face consequences.
Sure. When you originally, I guess, approached Grace and tried to communicate that there was some abusive situation going on between her and her mom, why did you feel the need to go to Grace with that instead of going through her mom?
Oh, I immediately went to both of them. But I just saw the thing on Grace's phone, and I just went to her and I told her, like.
What'd you see on Grace's phone?
Well, I told you that I saw an interaction between her and a friend of hers, and I saw that the friend was like basically very rough with her, and she was so kind, and I was like, it just like the narrative I had been hearing from her mother was this negative, because I was working, was just this ultra negative narrative, and I was like, well, this doesn't sound like the person that's being described to me. So I was like, I'm sorry, I think I had you wrong here. I didn't know really what it was, but it was.
Wait, so you saw a negative? I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand what you're saying. So you saw Grace say something negative about her mother to her friend on her phone?
No. In other words, the narrative I was getting, I didn't have a very close relationship with Grace at the time, which is normal for a girl who's 11, 12, 13. Usually the dad-daughter relationship is a little distant because she's going through, puberty, it's awkward, right? So I think that's actually normal. But when she was 15, 16, the narrative became that Grace is a brat, she doesn't want to help out. This is what I was hearing from her mother, who was interacting with her mostly, and I was working. And so I looked in her phone because I was concerned, like, what are you up to? I don't even know you. And I shouldn't have done that. But what I saw was an interaction with a friend of hers in which she wasn't a brat at all. She was just like a wonderfully mature young woman. And I was like, oh, something is wrong here, So
what was
I did go
so
to
you
Grace
said when you went through the phone, it was when she was at 15, 16?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
How did it take 5 years? Because earlier when I asked Grace and you guys said that this abuse probably started when she was 8 or 9, and it happened until she was about 14 and quit the restaurant. But you didn't discover this until she was 15 or 16 going through her phone?
Yeah, it's subtle. It's subtle. Yeah. It's subtle. I like it. Yeah, in retrospect, she shouldn't have been spending more or less an entire year with a Nigerian family, right? She should have been part of our family.
Why were you going through why are you going through text messages on your daughter's phone?
Well, I just kind of wanted to see if like she was in trouble, or I didn't know her that well. I agree that it's wrong. I agree that it's wrong to do that.
Had you ever gone through her phone before looking for things?
He was so bad at going through it because I noticed that he opened all these apps that I hadn't had open, and then I texted my friends. My dad went through my phone.
I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a phone at the time. So it's definitely wrong to do that, but I did it in the right way. You know, it's kind of like going through your kid's diary to see if they're like harming themselves or something. I think my impetus was right, and I'm glad I found that, because it was, you know what I mean. I knew it wasn't like being manipulated. I knew it was the real deal, because that certainly could have been done for my. It wasn't done so that I would find it. Clearly, it was just an organic thing.
You guys said that you had like a few other siblings, right? Was John the 18-year-old?
Yeah.
Who is the?
Yeah.
Gotcha. What's like obviously I've heard you and John fight before on stream. What about the 11, 13, 15, 17-year-old? What do those guys do?
What do they do?
Are they like? Do they all live with you guys, or are they living with Courtney, or what's going on with that, or whatever?
She's AWOL. She's abandoned the home. She doesn't say where she lives. You know, so I mean, this is a real problem, because.
Or I mean, so are all 6 children then living in the same house as you guys? Like all of you guys are all living together right now? It's 6 children and you?
My son's an adult, so he moved away. It was just crazy. I think you saw some of that stuff. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We both went to jail. I was accused of trying to murder him.
Court.
All this stuff. It was crazy. So, and then, so what happened is Courtney and I, Grace's mother and I, separated. But I became increasingly aware. I separated because she was saying, the problem is you, the problem is you, and the problem is also Grace, because I had become friends with her. So we left. And then first her older son, my older son, John, and then his other 2 brothers went and lived with us across the state. But then I could see that the 2 that remained here were also not being taken care of. And Grace's mother also conceded that. And I was like, this is crazy. So I went over here to take care of them. So now we have 2 residences, and I didn't want to pull those kids out of school. So Grace goes over there, and we have a caretaker when we can't, who is the next door neighbor, so that they have adult supervision. But it's kind of a messy situation, but it happened because...
Yeah.
You know, I was trying to do everything I could to figure out how we could, you know, function. What was the problem here?
Gotcha. So then just to keep track, so wait, Grace, you're 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
John is 18 and he's gone. And then you've got so are all 4, the 17-year-old included, are living with you guys now, or in that other house, or?
The 2 older ones are living where we used to live.
Okay.
And the 2 younger ones are living here.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which isn't an ideal situation, but it was kind of an emergency, because it wasn't good what we were seeing here.
And do you have like a formal custody arrangement worked out with Courtney, or is everything just kind of?
No. And that's part of the problem.
She has full custody.
I mean, she filed for divorce and then dismissed it. And I mean, I think that what the problem is that it's relatively easy to say, like, okay, your marriage didn't exist. But it's really hard to admit, it's really hard culturally for a woman to admit that motherhood is something that she's not capable of in the normal sense. It's real that you just don't have the chops for it. But if you don't have the chops for it, you've got to solve that problem. You cannot abuse children. So I think that's the problem. The temptation becomes, of course, to blame the other spouse. But there is a situation in which someone, I think, is just over their head. So, but I don't think you could just walk away either. Like, she won't even say where she is.
Why haven't you filed for divorce or anything?
It's just been so crazy, but at this point, it doesn't even really matter. I'm not looking to get remarried. Our assets, we rent, and I've taken care of those assets so that the kids are taken care of. And the kids are totally alienated by her, so there's not really a custody dispute.
Yeah, but you're not worried about her coming back and fighting for custody of a child, or if you start to accrue any amount of wealth, she might have a claim to that if you guys are still married.
Yeah.
Or, like, how do you guys figure out, like, who claims who on their taxes, or...
It's just been totally crazy. Like, she's living literally as a fugitive. There are laws against abandoning your spouse and children. You could look it up. Rhode Island General Laws 11-2-1. But, you know, it's the whole idea of like a deadbeat parent. And she won't communicate with any of us. And she has this group of trolls who she thinks are her friends, but are just using her as their personal lol cow and trying to get her to act as, you know, irrational as possible for their yucks. So it's really strange. Yeah.
If you were to ask Courtney, or if we were to ask Courtney if she was here, what do you think her reason would be for why she abandoned the family?
She would say that I have problems that I'm not admitting to. But then if I was to specify what they were, there is never an explanation.
What's like a grievance that she's aired about you that she feels is hurting her ability to remain present with the family?
Well, she'll say something like, I've never really been able to tell my side of the story, or you require that she'll say to me, you require that I agree with you about everything, which is a way of saying like that I have to agree with her about everything.
What's like an example of a disagreement you guys might have?
You know, the weird thing is there isn't much of a disagreement. Like, she thinks I'm a more capable parent. There was no doubt about that. She never said the kids are in danger in any way.
Yeah.
Look, Steven, I'm telling you, this is what happened when I became friends with Grace. She thought we were having an affair, right? And she became extremely, but she knew that wasn't happening. But like somewhere in her mind, it just went crazy. It just went totally crazy. And you had this classic sort of stepmother, beautiful stepdaughter routine, and it was.
What do you mean by stepmother? She's the biological mother, right?
No, I know, but you know, like in the stories, like the older woman loses her beauty and resents the young. I mean, it's a classic Freudian trope, I think. But it was crazy. I was like, "What are you talking about?" I have no. Grace is not my. I'm not looking for. I think she was looking for something to be a fulcrum in her life that she could be a victim of. And I don't think she came up with anything, so she just made. I'm not saying she made it up, because I think it was crazy. I can describe things that are beyond.
Yeah, I guess what did she ever do to give you an indication that this is a way that she felt threatened by Grace?
Well, she told both of us that, you know, and she was always pretty honest about this, but she told us that she went to a park nearby, Lincoln Woods, and that she was walking around with my younger siblings, and that they were, you know, somewhere off in the field, and that she had a vision of me and my dad having sex, and like she screamed. I mean, she said that. I don't have any evidence of that happening, but she told me that, and I was like, what? So, you know,
it's crazy.
Stuff like that. I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg.
At one point, you know, we fled the home, and you know, I was like, you're trying to drive Grace to self-harm, and she was like, yeah, I am. I kind of want her to do that, and you know, she was being honest, but I was like, what? How can a parent want their kid to like end themselves?
Why did you guys flee the home?
It was just so crazy. It was just psychic warfare.
Yeah, but like, why wouldn't you get some kind of restraining order, or encourage her to leave the home, or like there was no way to get her to step out?
Thing is, I know it kind of like sounds crazy, but I remember I was like, okay, well maybe it's just like this thing with me and my dad she just can't handle, but like I know she's a rational person, like she can cook and clean and make food, and I was like, okay, don't want to, my younger siblings are living here, and I think me and my dad were just kind of like, okay, this is reaching a breaking point, why don't we just get some space? We went to a hotel, and we're just like, okay, let's just, and then we found another place, and it's like, okay, you know, like I don't want to ruin everybody's life. You know, I was out of school at the time, so I was like,
I hadn't explored the annulment thing.
she's capable of taking care of kids.
I hadn't explored the annulment thing.
Sure.
You know, so I thought I was married, and I thought, like, well, of course, for the kids' sake, we should work this out. If we're married, we should work it out. And often, in traditional circles, this, like, you've got to work out your marriage thing becomes, I think, an unbelievable torture chamber for people who lack, let's say, extended family, support structures, who come from, both of us come from broken families, in her case, incredibly broken families in which her father largely just left the family, so she had tons of these sort of abandonment issues. And, you know, sometimes you cannot fix it, so that even when you give it space, it becomes abandonment, right? So then it becomes, either you're there and you're the abuser, or you leave and you've abandoned her. And so no matter what you do,
yeah, especially if she's like getting like super crazy or whatever, I can imagine wanting to put some space between you guys.
Yeah, and then the kids suffer because they start being used as pawns.
Yeah, for sure. Just curious, for your recollection of like leaving, whose idea was it first to leave the house?
We had so many configurations of different people leave because we had real estate, so we could shift. You know, I could move into an Airbnb. So I can't even remember how many times we tried to arrange things to cause, like, to just get some stability. And
yeah, seriously, I mean, we've
only gotten stability
3 properties. We originally were in our family house, and then I think I moved out because I was 16 or something, and I was like, you know what, there's an extra apartment, I could live there by myself, almost 17. And then my dad moved over, and then a couple of my siblings moved over, and then it was so crazy, and then we just moved around. I was living with my mom. It was just, we tried to configure it in a way where everything would settle down, but it just got worse.
Sure.
Essentially.
So I'm just curious, in the event where you guys are having these big disagreements and Grace and Ben, you guys feel like you need to leave, what does that conversation look like? Like, how do you guys figure we need to get out of here and go to a hotel, or...
the last situation, I was like, I'm not going to make it through this. I'm going to have a total mental breakdown. I got to just walk out of here with the clothes on my back, get in a car in the middle of winter in a blizzard, and just get the fuck out of here, because I can't do this. I can't wake up to this intense, like, you know, and what happens, I don't think there's a mechanism in our society, especially in like traditional cultures, for women to say, I'm not up to this task. I can't do it. And they get guilty. I think when people get stuck in guilt, they can't negotiate it. They can't just forgive them. I don't believe in forgiving themselves, but they can't just ask forgiveness of God and those around them. And I've seen it so many times. People get stuck in patterns of guilt, and it just snowballs, because you have to then, you can't deal with guilt on that level. You can't deal with it. If you were supposed to be a wife and a mother of 6 kids, and that's what you invested your life in, and that's what you gave everything to, but you just weren't up for it, and you got called on it, like, you're not up for this, it's really hard to pivot.
Sure, I can understand that. I'm just kind of curious why, when you left the house, because you're having too much, I guess, mental anguish in dealing with this, which I think is fair, why would Grace come with you? Why her as the only kid? Why not any of the other children?
Yeah, because she was also, so she was, you know, seen as the enemy.
It was extremely rough between me and my mom. Even rougher, sometimes even rougher than between her and my dad. So, you know, and also the other kids were in school and I wasn't. So.
Well, the other problem was that this kind of sense that like Dad and Grace are up to something suspicious was like oozing through the household. And so like the other kids were like, I don't know what's going on with these conversations. And, you know, so they got the sense like, I don't want to be like Grace. I don't want to have my life destroyed. So they were like, I want nothing to do with these people. Maybe maybe they're the bad people. You know, I was just alienated from my kids. It was like, it was a war, and I had to win. I'm still trying to win them back over. They barely talk to me. They get really stressed out when they talk, because I was seeing what happens if you want to be portrayed as the bad guy is the insinuation is that you're crazy, that you're sexually insane, and that you're violent, ultra violent. Even when there's no evidence for that whatsoever, it's pretty easy to act around a man like he's like that. And people buy it.
So
if you always act nervous around a man, the kids will pick up on
that
the kind of implicit fear, even if it's not stated. And I'm a big person. I'm a big personality, but
what about so did the rest of the kids then, did they kind of get along with mom then, or?
No, it was awful. So when we left, we left, and you know, because the idea was, oh, it's that's the problem. So I was like, okay, we'll just cut off completely. You do your thing. If this can work it out, you work it out. So I didn't really communicate with them. I invited them. We were living in a hotel for a little while. Invited them over to the hotel, but they were leery of the whole thing. You know, they just wanted stability. But when we finally came back, they said it was the worst time they've ever had in their lives.
When you guys were in the household? Or when
no,
you were
that
gone
when
from...
we left. So when we left, she became extremely depressed and was drinking and not responding. So it was, you know, I didn't know that at the time, but like they were suffering because she just couldn't. I mean, for 5 years, she's just been non-responsive.
Did you just have no contact with any of those children ever? You never talked to them or anything, or didn't have a way to...
No, I did. I wanted them to feel free to reach out to me. And I invited them to the hotel. And a couple times they came over. But it's just weird, you know? It's just a weird... I didn't want it to become, like, even more of a war, you know? So I was hoping that she'd be able to, without me and Grace there, to be able to stabilize things. But it was deeper than that problem. You know, it was just a fundamental relationality problem.
I guess one of the things that's confusing me is I don't understand why Grace seems to be singled out so hard here. Earlier we talked about you going through her phone or checking it. Why check Grace's phone? Why not any of the other children's phones?
Well, she was the oldest, so...
Yeah, but the younger brother is 2 years younger. I'm sure he had a phone. He was probably texting, right?
Well, so I think the abuse happens in this situation. The first one who reaches that age. So I think everything was fine when the baby...
Yeah, you said the first one that reaches that age, but you also said earlier that she was being abused since she was 8 or 9 years old. You noticed when she was around 15, 16. Yeah. So surely if you start to notice this, you must think that the other kids could be being abused as well. So I'm trying to figure out why would you just go through Grace's phone and not any of the other children's phones? Had you ever gone through her phone before, or was that the first time?
I mean... Not really. Not that I know of, or what. I don't know. Not.
How did you get into her phone? Usually, people tend to have like passwords or locks on their phone. How did you get into it?
Yeah. I don't remember. I didn't know anything about it, so like I think I went. Yeah, I looked a few times, and just to see what was up, you know. And so she caught me doing that, and I said to her, you know, I'm sorry for that, but. Why not my son? I mean, he was a couple years younger. He was still a freshman. I wasn't that concerned about him as I was with her because I think Grace had gotten the brunt of the abuse, and so she was kind of alienated. So I was like, I could see that she was alienated. She wasn't connecting with the rest of the family, and so I was concerned. You know, to be frank, I was concerned that she was into drugs and sex and things like that. Because I think that's what happens to alienated girls at that age.
What was the confrontation like for Grace, when you found out that your dad was going through your phone? What was that confrontation like, or what did that look like? How did that even happen?
I mean, it was so obvious. I knew it as soon as, because he said, like, Grace, can you unlock your phone? I need to find an old contact I saved in here or something. And I was like, there's none of your contacts in here. So. But I don't know. I think essentially one day he was like, you know, Grace, I know that you know I've been looking through your phone. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, you know, I know we don't really talk much, but, you know, I was kind of like, I don't remember. I think I said, like, you know, I don't I wish you wouldn't do that, but like I get it because we don't really talk much. So
I actually saw in your phone one time that it said like, "LOL, my dad is looking through my phone." And I was like, "Oh shit!" So I think the dig was up.
What? Just curious. Okay. All right. I got some of the data here. Okay. So for Grace, what is your school life like? I'm curious.
my school life.
Yeah, like tell me, like, did you go to normal school? Did you go to regular? Did you go to private school when you were homeschooled? When did you leave? Yeah, I'm just curious what the timeline on that looks like.
I was homeschooled until 3rd and 4th grade. Went to 3rd and 4th grade in public school. Homeschooled again until 8th grade. Then went to public school. And then I dropped out in my junior year of high school halfway through when COVID hit because I hated online school, so I just kind of stopped going. And also that was when like the family stuff really got crazy, so I was just like, I can't.
Yeah, COVID was part of it. COVID brought the, made it have a crisis.
So you were homeschooled until 3rd or 4th grade?
Yeah, I went to 3rd and 4th grade in public school.
Wait, you went to 3rd and 4th grade in public school? Mm-hmm. Right.
And then back to homeschooling.
And then in 8th grade, you went to normal school?
Yeah.
And then for high school, you were?
It was it was a magnet school.
Gotcha. And then you dropped out when you were, when you were junior, or?
Like halfway through junior year. I mean, it was like maybe March or what's after March? April of 2020.
Mm-hmm. It was COVID, right?
Yeah. I tried to stick around for like a couple months, but I couldn't do it. So.
What was so difficult about high school?
Well, I really liked going to high school in a lot of ways. I did like tennis and different clubs, and I was like, whatever, fairly popular, I guess. But when it went online, I just couldn't take it because I just couldn't. I don't know. I know that's ironic now that I do streaming, but I just couldn't take it. Like all the fun was gone, and it was just really awful and stifling. And I was moving out at the time because the stuff with my mom got so crazy, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna take a break, and if I need to get my GED later, that's fine.
Do you think when you were, so was any of high school in person, or was it all online? Like was freshman year in person and then sophomore junior was online, or junior was online, or?
No, only junior, only like at March 2020 in junior, that was halfway through junior year. Mm-hmm. That was when it started being online, and a month or two later I just stopped going.
Gotcha. Did you make friends in high school? Do you feel like you had friends in high school?
Yeah, I had a lot of friends.
Gotcha. Were you like dating in high school? Did you have like boyfriends and stuff?
Not really.
Gotcha.
But like one or two. But
okay.
Not really. Sorry, Dad.
Did you
boyfriends though?
No, I went on a couple dates. I didn't really have boyfriends. I had crushes, but not really.
Gotcha. Young kids these days, they don't have boyfriends, right?
No, it was mostly like hookup kind of stuff at my school.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really into it, so I just kind of didn't do it.
Did you ever like, when you, just for like communicating with people at school, did you ever like talk explicitly with anybody? Like texting or on apps or anything like that?
What do you mean?
I don't know, like sexting people or sending nudes or whatever. I don't know what kids in high school do these days.
No, not really. No.
Gotcha.
Was this an interrogation of my sexual history in high school? You creep.
Well, something you said, yeah.
Well, you had explored things online, right?
Yeah, no, I wasn't whatever. I wasn't like sexually super innocent, but I mean, I wasn't like hooking up with people.
You said you'd explored things online. What was that an allusion to?
I mean, I've talked about this before. I got into porn very early in my life, and it was sort of like a very, very dark secret that I kept for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was very alienated.
Mm-hmm. So something I'm kind of curious about. If you're having conversations with your friends, if you've got these kind of like pornographic secrets that you're looking at, and you're obviously a growing young girl doing all this, how did it not bother you or feel strange when your dad was looking through your phone?
No, I mean, I didn't like it, but I kind of was like, well, I kind of thought like, I don't know, I guess parents can look through your phone. I was like, well, he's probably checking in on me. And I was kind of embarrassed of my Instagram because I took like a couple selfies that were like, cringy or whatever. But, I mean, I didn't want him to look through because I didn't want to see, but, I hid everything pretty well. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I guess. But earlier you said that when he asked to go through your phone to look for contacts, you kind of knew that he was like digging through stuff, but you like gave him the passwords and let him in and everything anyway. No.
Yeah, because I was like, well, he's my dad. He can. It's he pays for this phone if he wants to look through it. Like I can't. Our relationship was kind of tense. So I was like, well, you can look. Whatever. It's his right.
Okay.
But I didn't love it.
Certainly his right, but I
Instagram pictures.
Do what?
Destiny, please ask if he remembers the Instagram pictures she's talking about.
I remember
Look,
them.
we can't beat around the bush. Go ahead, say it. I mean, why don't you just say it? The answer is no. The answer is no. Okay, Steven?
I was just curious.
You
It's
can
just
ask her what you want, but it's a little undignified. I'm a grown man talking with you. I'm 51 years old. I have 6 kids. You could just ask the question, but
Oh, I'm not asking the question.
We've
I'm
heard
more.
it a million times.
Yeah, I was just more interested in.
Jesus Christ!
I was just
I
more
have
interested.
dignity as a person, right?
It was just interesting to me.
I'm not on the stand here, right?
True. It was just interesting to me that a teenage girl didn't seem to have any problems that her dad, that she had a strained and
They didn't
tense
have
relationship
problems.
with, was going through her phone. That seems kind of weird. Like, I feel like
I
a
said I
teenage girl would be
was-
pretty irritated by that.
No, I complained to my friend. It's just we didn't talk much, so I was like, well, I guess it's his right. And
We didn't have a close relationship. That's true. So I didn't really know her, and I was concerned about her, and I was like, what's going on? And there were things on there that were indicators to me of something unhealthy. So I pursued it, and then I was like, actually, this is just fine. All this is just totally normal.
Sure. So you just communicated to her that you just were trying to figure out what was going on or what was she up to, I guess, when you were asking for phone.
Yeah, I
and stuff?
totally confessed or whatever. But see, when you say that, you're portraying me as. Did I look at her diary sometimes when she was away to see if she was okay? Yes. Should I do that? I think if you're concerned about someone, you will do that.
Well, I was only asking because earlier it seemed like you said that you were kind of like lying about why you were looking through her phone. You were asking for a contact or something, but now it seems like you're saying that.
Yeah, I lied to her about it.
No,
Yeah.
he lied. He lied to me to get into my phone, but I knew it was a lie. So
I
was
don't
like,
think
okay,
that
he wants
minor
to check
children
on
have
me.
an absolute right to privacy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that either.
But especially if it's something like having to, she seemed very alienated, and I do know that drugs and promiscuity can be problems in that situation. So I poked around a little because we didn't have a close enough relationship where I could just ask. So
Earlier when I was asking
Steven, can you crack a smile? Jesus Christ.
Steven, I'm not in the fucking therapist room, and you're not my fucking therapist.
Well, what are we doing here? I
Sorry.
thought I'm just asking questions. That's what we're doing,
Well,
right?
don't alpha me.
I'm not alphaing anyone.
You're younger
I'm
than
literally.
me. You are a big streamer or whatever.
This is the
but don't try
most
to
beta I've
fucking
ever been. I'm
alpha
just
me.
asking questions about the dynamic. You guys have obviously an interesting history on YouTube. You got an interesting history
Well,
online.
let's keep it fun. How about that? Okay. And if you want to say, have I ever done X, Y, and Z with my daughter? You can ask that. Go ahead and ask it, but don't dance around it.
Well, I'm not. I'm just trying to figure out what the
Yeah, you are.
dynamic
You're
is.
dancing around it.
I'm not dancing
Yes, you
around
are.
anything.
Yes, you are. How did you feel, Grace? When it just seems like it's a little.
Well, feelings are
Jesus
feelings are
Christ,
important,
guy.
right?
I know when someone's doing something, so just be a man. Just be a man. Ask me a question straight up.
What are you guys hoping to get out of a conversation with me?
Tons of views and subscriptions on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. True.
We're here to use you. No. Steven, can I tell you a little bit about what I want to do in the world?
Go for it.
I want to create, and I want you to help me create, a new category. It's the new big thing. It's called the centrist edgelord.
Mm-hmm.
Because our culture has split, not irreparably, into right and left, and these two groups don't talk to each other. And the center is often seen, and I've seen your content. I initially thought you were like one of these boring kind of centrists, like where there's you know what I mean? Like it could be the worst of both worlds to be a centrist. But I think you're trying to carve out a space where you're taking the best of both sides and leaving out all the acrimony. So I think that our Holy Father, Pope Francis, is the great centrist edgelord. People on the right hate him. People on the left hate him. Everyone hates him, so he must be doing something right. As was our Lord Jesus Christ. He was a centrist edgelord. He was not he was not a traditionalist. See what I'm saying? Does that sound cool?
Yeah, if that's your goal. I mean, I imagine that's pretty similar to what I'm trying to do, yeah.
But you got it. But a lot of people say that, well, how can you be an edgelord if you're in the center?
You just attack everybody, right?
Well, I would say the Catholic faith represents, because the word Catholic means universal. Like, you have people we've been in the manosphere and what I call the vagosphere, which is the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And the people in the manosphere are basically, the whole thing is about how women are worthless and we should just go our own way. The most extreme of it, right? Mm-hmm. And I get it. You can get frustrated. I've been there. Women often, like, and I guess you would say, like, you know, hardcore feminists, just see men as always wrong and bad. Well, it can't be, right? It's got to be that men and women find a solution in the middle. So both sides are wrong.
Yeah, that would be the centrist position, right?
Steven, you seem bored.
I'm just...
You're deflated.
When I'm not screaming at people, I'm just, you know, hanging out. It's pretty late for me, okay?
Let's get into it. Let's get into it a little.
Well, what are we going to get into?
You tried to do your whole, like, are you a child molester routine. Okay, that's over. Now let's try to lighten it up a little bit. Unless you want to really get into that.
Why do you think I'm a child... Why do you think I think you're a child molester?
Well, I mean, my God. Whatever. It's fine. All right. So how about Steven Crowder? The man is totally
hold on.
innocent.
That's a debate for tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Don't give away our position. Come on.
Yeah.
And did you hear we're doing a debate afterwards? A 6-way, 3-part debate with Milo Yiannopoulos showing up for the second round.
You think he's going to?
I don't know. Someone put a video of me. I was in one of those little circles, and just randomly when we were tiny on YouTube, gave it to Milo Yiannopoulos, and you know what his response was? He makes me want to be gay again.
Why is that?
I don't know. I guess I have a certain sexual charisma, at least in his book. So I tried to pawn him off on Grace and say, like, well, you know, why don't you try to be heterosexual instead of, you know, sticking with
That
the
didn't
old
work out
routine.
too well.
And he rejected our offer. So, you know.
We'll call it a tentative yes from Milo.
That feels like
But
a
anyways,
definite
it's gonna
no,
be fun.
Okay.
You never know with Milo. But it's gonna be fun anyways. We have tomfoolery. Who else? K Fellows. Anyways, it's gonna be a big day tomorrow.
Let me approach you, since let's turn the tables on you, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if this is true. I have no idea, but you have an open marriage. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm not sure what that means for each partner, but I think I understand the gist of it.
We just fuck everybody, basically. Yeah.
Okay. So what happens when there's a child produced from that?
Well, there's birth control and abortion, so hopefully that doesn't happen unless something insane happens.
So murder is the solution?
If you consider abortion murder, then I suppose.
Okay, so if a partner... So all this is like... So if a partner gets another partner pregnant, and it's not the two of you, the main two, then your solution is abort the child?
If we fuck up on the birth control and shit gets really fucked and that's what happens, yeah, that would probably be the solution, yeah.
And you don't feel any qualms about setting up setting something up in which your solution is death?
Well, I don't consider abortion to be the murder of a child, so it's not really a quandary that I think on a lot.
You don't?
I do not consider it to be a person, no.
Oh, right. I've heard you do the person thing. Yeah. Well, we could do that another time.
Okay.
So you have no qualms whatsoever about having an abortion after pregnancy?
I mean, I'm sure it'd be annoying to drive to the clinic and, you know, whatever surgery and post-care is necessary for it is probably annoying, but other than that, no.
So it's just annoying to kill a human life?
Well, considering I don't consider it a human life, I wouldn't agree with your friend.
Oh, no. It is a human life. I've seen you talk about this. It's a human life. Human, and it's alive. And you're killing it out of convenience so you can have multiple sexual partners for your own pleasure, right?
Based. But no, I wouldn't consider it to be a human life. Like, nothing worthy of
Okay, so it's not human then, or it's not a life? Which one, Steven?
It's not a person in a moral sense.
Okay, but you said it's not a human life. It is a human life. You're going to concede that, right?
Sure, but you're saying
so I'm going to terminate
Yeah.
willfully a human life, and you find that an inconvenience only. It doesn't give you any qualms morally.
If you're just defining human life as something different than a person worthy of getting moral consideration, then yes, that is correct, what you're saying.
When else do you think it's okay to terminate a human life out of your convenience for your pleasure?
Well, if it's like a living person with rights and stuff, then I would say probably never. It's generally never okay to kill somebody just for.
Well, how about just a human life? When else can a human life be taken to satisfy your partner's?
Well, if we're defining a human life as like a human living body without any moral consideration, then maybe we can consider a person.
Don't you think it might be better, since you and your wife are married, that you say if the pregnancy occurs, that child will have the two parents who have pledged themselves to each other to take care of that child? Don't you think that makes more sense?
Well, I would rather just not have that child, because I don't think me and my partner are in a position right now to want to have and take care of a child. So we'd probably have an abortion.
So marriage has nothing to do with children?
I never said marriage has nothing to do with children. I said that in the event
you would
that
have an abortion
gets,
even in your marriage?
If we didn't feel like we were ready to have the child, correct.
Huh. So you would kill a human life just out of convenience. Wow, that's amazing.
If you consider things like tumors and fingernails and hair human life, then yeah, sure.
So you think a human life is a tumor?
Well, how are you defining a human life?
You know who else thought of certain human lives as being parasites or tumors?
Hitler?
Yeah.
Crazy
how
that works.
It's convenient to dehumanize people if it's inconvenient for your pleasures. So that you can kill them in order to facilitate your pleasure. You owe yourself better than that, don't you think?
No, I've never heard a compelling reason for why something that. Do you think that when you keep talking over me every time I'm going to give an answer, that makes your argument correct? We can do it if you want.
I'm trying to liven you up. You seem like you were falling asleep.
Well, I'm just trying to respond to your questions. But if you think you can keep talking over me and that makes you correct, I mean, you're welcome to do it all day. It's not changing any minds here, though.
Well, whatever. I mean, this interview sucks.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, it does. You suck, dude.
Yeah.
You suck. I know I'm supposed to be kissing your ass, but you suck.
Who said you were supposed to be kissing my ass?
Lacking in energy and incredibly rude. So I'm out of here, and good luck tomorrow, because I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to f you up, Steven.
Okay.
Take care.
All right. Have a good one. Jesus. Okay, well, whatever. Okay, I was just curious what the family dynamic was. I think that early on, I think that the father kind of like picked out Grace as like the child that he was going to kind of like take control of, and then he started to like work on that very early on. There were kind of like more challenging questions I wanted to ask, but obviously they were kind of shut off from it. Are you significantly less interested in it? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I understand the dynamic now, so it's whatever. The Grace girl is probably mind locked there forever, I would imagine, because her dad has probably been her sole source of like affirmation and validation and everything, probably for her entire life. You could tell that her needing to like cover for her father. Notice how when she started answering a question, she was like half lying about it, and the dad had to correct her. I think that's pretty indicative. I have a feeling that I didn't get to ask this question, but I'm pretty sure I knew the answer. I have a feeling she probably has a lot of really negative emotions related to her father and her relationship with her father that she constantly has to reframe. I think that can oftentimes be a sign of abuse that you're not always aware of. If somebody makes you feel uncomfortable, and then you constantly have to work your mind into thinking why you're actually the one incorrect and they're the one correct. I find it curious that he seems so concerned at times about like getting his children and helping his children, yet he seems to have no desire whatsoever to do a divorce. I feel like there's conflicting stories all over the place. The timelines are wild. The stories are conflicting. For instance, saying that the mother fled the family, but then saying that him and Grace were the ones that fled the household. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, but I think I understand the dynamic more now. I guess the only interesting thing is like the, no, there's nothing interesting. There's nothing interesting anymore. I'm willing to bet that the mom probably will sound a little bit crazy. That'd be my guess if I were to talk to her. But the dad is definitely manipulative. I think it's like very, very, very easy to see that. If you're at a point where you're fleeing the household and taking children with you, and you can't name like a single disagreement, I think it's pretty obvious that something, I don't want to say insidious, but something a little strange is going on there.
I'm guessing the reason I bring this up with them on the call is because they just dodge. Or well, I'm trying to do like a back and forth of like challenging question into like talk to me about your siblings to kind of like ease up off the gas, because I don't want to just like roast them the whole time because they're probably not going to talk about them. But I was trying to figure out if I could get to any disagreements on like what was the actual problems with the mom. It seemed like I never actually heard anything at all. It's kind of funny because even the guys attempt to reframe the mom's behavior as abusive, the mom actually sounded like very reasonable the entire time. It sounded like she was saddled with a restaurant that she didn't want to run, that she was basically being forced to take care of on her own because he described himself as smoking outside and Grace is taking care of the children, and the Ethiopians is not being able to manage the restaurant. Therefore, the mom is like really stressed the entire time. So how is she just crazy? It feels like she was being totally reasonable actually, which is really bad because it's his side of the story. So he should be making her look even more crazy than she actually is. So the fact that she comes out looking pretty justified, I think, in her feelings on his version of the events means that things were probably even more wacky. Well, obviously more wacky. I need to find the mom and talk to her. Yeah, I don't know if that'll ever happen. Probably not. Join the Discord room. Q wants to talk. Oh, is Karantos here? He's not even in my room. I don't think there's much more else for me to like. Dude, really? I'm doing no damage to this thing. Oh, hi, what's up, buddy?
Okay, I cut the last. First of all, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. Okay, so first of all, I cut the last part of that conversation. So you seem to believe that you have everything figured out completely. Is that true?
I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of everything. Yeah. Why? What do you think? Do you disagree with any of my assessments?
Not necessarily. I didn't watch enough for me to even make an assessment of my own. But I would say this much, right? Mm-hmm. Would you say that the guy wanted you to engage in a much more antagonistic way because that is what they're used to? Because you seem to be coming at it from a, let me be a fucking therapist / detective / just try to figure out what's going on. And that made them much more uncomfortable than if you were to just say, you're a fucking PDF file. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. I think that my feeling, these are all feelings, okay? My feeling is that when you're lying, being asked a lot of rudimentary questions about timelines and relationships, it's very, very, very hard to keep all that straight. And he couldn't, right? My daughter had a huge problem, then she didn't. We had a tense relationship, but I was also looking through her phone. I asked to look through her phone, sometimes I didn't. I don't even remember how I got on her phone, right? Keeping all of these details straight is very, very, very difficult if you're lying. But if there's a big confrontation, like, did you ever rape your daughter? Then of course you can act indignant and have the big screaming match and come out looking good. But when it's just a bunch of like kind of mundane questions about the relationships early on, it's very, 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 very difficult to keep all that straight. And I think that type of line of questioning gets very frustrating after a while if you're just making everything up on the fly, which I think is what they were doing, what he was doing, clearly what he was doing. When I asked a question about the phone thing, and I'm like, how did you even get into her phone? Don't they have passwords? And then he was like, well, I don't remember, blah, blah, blah. And then Grace was the one that volunteered all the information. It's pretty obvious that there's some memery going on, right?
Yeah, interesting. So would you say that you purposefully took the conversation down that path instead of just coming at their ass because you felt that there would be a lot of fucking manipulation and lying going on from at least the part of her father? Because you seem to believe that she's like a prisoner of his, like at least mentally she's under his spell, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, but I think she would help him. I think she would lay traps to help him. So like when she's saying things, she's making a lot of jokes like, Destiny, you could be my new daddy, or I'm looking for people to like save me from my dad. That's a joke that I'm almost positive that they probably say to themselves or to each other. One thing that I know, I should have written these down in a projection part, but the dad would project a lot of behavior, I think, trying to get ahead of me accusing him of something like, oh, do you think I did this? Or, oh, I bet you think that I was just trying to separate her from it. Or, oh, I bet you think I was trying to turn her against mom. Like he would say those preemptively, probably because I think he does. But if he feels like he preempts it, then like, well, it can't possibly be true. Why would it be true if I just said it? So I bet they joke amongst themselves a lot where he's like, oh, Grace, they're going to say like, I'm trying to turn you against you again, blah, 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 yeah.
No, I most definitely see that, but do you think that Grace herself is A, victim, B, probably, perpetuates this and is a willing participant, or C, a mix of both? What do you think?
I mean, at some point in your life, it basically becomes impossible to separate the two, right? Like if you've been mind fucked by a parent for that long,
eventually you're going to become a willing participant. But like, how willing are you? If he was playing this game with her since she was 14 or 15, and if she's already coming from a pretty strange household, I mean, she never had a chance, right? No offense to her. She seems like a smart person, especially given that she fucking failed high school and shit. She's well-spoken, obviously, and can have arguments and shit. She doesn't sound like a normal junior dropout from high school. But, like, regardless, like, she seems to be pretty much completely in the palm of her father in terms of, like, taking marching orders, essentially, or defending him, basically.
Mm-hmm. No, I could see that. I could see that. Well, would you say that there was any foul play between them? This is all, speculation on your part. You can't make a definitive claim, but would you say that there was any? Would you say that maybe it happened? Because I'll be honest with you, I saw a couple hours ago on my stream, because she was in my stream. We were talking a bit in chat, and I saw a video of this street maxer dude, the person that she refers to as her uncle, where it was her father, her, and the dude in a call together, and. She's like fucking dancing seductively for the stream where her father watches. He tells her, smack your ass for your uncle, smack your ass for your Uncle Max. This is fucking weird. This is degenerate. Listen, I know I'm anti-West, but I don't think the West is this fucking degenerate. This has to be something that is very fucking unique to people like her. So I would ask you, would you say that, like some weird shit went down between her and her father, or are you not comfortable making that speculation or claim just yet?
I would have to ask a lot more questions to get there. Obviously, the relationship looks weird, but like whether or not any sexual abuse occurred, I'd have to start asking a lot more questions to figure that out. I don't know. It looks weird. I agree. It looks super, super, super weird and maybe inappropriate, but I can't know that.
Okay. You said you wanted to ask a couple more important questions. Where did you want to take the conversation before, the pressure got to her father and he had to dip?
Jesus. I wanted to do generally just like emotional investigation of Grace is kind of what I was interested in. Like, do you feel like you have negative emotions around your father a lot? Do you ever feel like he was leading you down certain decisions? Maybe he was doing it for the best, outcome for you and you really felt that way, or like basically questions like that are kind of what I was interested in. But yeah.
So would you be down to ask her that when her father's not around, or did you think that, were you more interested in asking that when her father's around to see the way that she'd respond to it?
Yeah, that I wanted to see like the father-daughter dynamic, because it tells me so much more than just her. Like her father being there tells me a lot. Like the fact that he spoke the majority of the time, the fact that she was trying to supplement stuff to make his stories work. Yeah, the fact that it's interesting that he does a thing that I think everybody that is a little bit manipulative does this, where he's explaining a lot of very complex but kind of like infantile emotions to other people. So for instance, he kept saying things like, oh, like I think that the reason why her mother left is because she failed her duties as a woman, and oh, Grace felt this way probably because she was like a confused teen. Like these kinds of like statements over and over again, seeing him make those statements, this is like just conjecture for me, but I feel like people that tend to be abusive will oftentimes like mind read people really hard like that and tell you why they feel the way they do, even if they like can't really possibly know that. He does that a lot. But yeah, I don't know how Grace would answer on her own. It'd be interesting maybe to explore it in a one-on-one conversation, but I wanted to see the father-daughter dynamic more than anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I see them motherfuckers murdering 20 niggas and like just turning out to be like the most prolific serial killer duo of all time. Like that's the vibes I get from them. But I have been surrounded by people like that in my life, so this is just me guessing. What do you think about the mother Courtney though?
I haven't seen anything of her, so it's hard to say. I can't like have a strong opinion.
Would you think it would be, if you were able to get her on the stream, right? If you were able to get her on the stream, wouldn't you think that it would be fair to have her side of things being said?
Yeah, if she wanted to, yeah, that'd be really interesting. But I don't know if she would. I don't even know if she's on the internet.
Do you think the mom is like, you said you think that she's a little bit crazy. Could you expound on that a little bit?
Well, I mean, the fact that she has left all of her kids, doesn't seem to be making an effort to get a hold of any, was willing to tolerate whatever crazy situation this was, although this could be being misrepresented by Grace and her dad, so it's hard to say. But generally in these situations where people are like really fucked up, usually both sides are a little bit fucked up. That tends to be the case. But
yeah, I mean, it would be very unfair to just go off of the narration of the father and the daughter that clearly do not fuck with the mother. So, we don't know if that's the truth. I've just seen her getting bitched around a lot by Grace. That's all I've seen. Like getting her hair pulled, just getting smacked. Like that's the only thing that I've seen of the mother, and she, for the most part, she seemed to just sit there silently, not say anything. Right? It seems like she's been defeated a long time ago. But I don't know. I'd say they're all pretty much online. I'm pretty sure she has a channel of her own, so I don't think that it would be very hard for you to make a connection with her. Because I don't know. To me, no, go ahead. You're about to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say people in my chat are saying she has a YouTube channel, so that might be the case.
Oh yeah, no, she does. I think I've been I watched a couple of her videos, basic shit, but I don't know. So, New Orbiter, do you want to keep her around, or is she like too nuclear for you? I mean, there's nobody that's too nuclear for you.
True. I mean, like she's kind of interesting, but I feel like the shtick might get played out because I'm like all of her opinions are probably going to come from somebody that is like valiantly trying to defend like an insane amount of abuse that they've probably suffered. I think a lot of her Crowder takes essentially amounted to that, and that's going to get kind of boring after a while. And then everything else is just going to be like a radical Catholic thing. Like she's smart and a little witty, so it's like it's funny to hear her rile up somebody else, right? She like serves your role in that case. Like her and Vegan Games was really funny. The fact that she could come in with the dumbest fucking argument possible against vasectomies and then trigger the fuck out of him, I thought that was funny. But I don't know. I feel like that shtick is probably going to get played out pretty fast because she's basically just going to be an extension of all of her dad's crazy beliefs. Yeah.
Interesting. I see.
Do you think Grace is going to join this room?
No, Grace is most definitely going to join this room, and you will probably face a lot of problems with her in the near future, but that's actually exciting for you. That's good content. I'm sure you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I don't know, because I feel like I fully... Do you want a secret? Do you want the secret? You ready? Crazy people seem interesting because they're not standard, right? There's like something different about them. But more often than not, when you crack open like what's making somebody crazy, usually the answer is really boring. It's like some crippling self-esteem issue or some relationship with parent or whatever. Most crazy people just end up being really boring. So I feel like I understand like the dynamic of this family now. I don't know how much there's left for me to explore or crack into. So, oh shit.
Oh shit! I'm muted. I'm sticking around. I'm muted.
All right, what the was that? What the was that?
What was what?
What in the actual flying was that? Jesus Christ.
What was what?
You asked me to come on to talk, and then you sit there and you act like an awkward silence means that... Just say it, Destiny. You want to say it? Go ahead, say it. I'm abused. I'm not interesting. I'm an abuse victim. Go ahead. Is that what it is?
Didn't I already tell you that verbatim before we even had the call? Didn't I say I'm pretty sure you're being abused by your dad and I want to talk to you guys to figure that out? Isn't that what I said exactly?
No, you did not say that. We were joking around.
Wait, so I didn't say it, or I did say it and you interpreted it as a joke?
What did you say? Okay, you said we're gonna dig into this family shit as much as your dad is comfortable he can come along too. I went on your stream. You didn't say, oh, I think you're an abuse victim. Just say it to my face. Say it. Go ahead. I'm an abuse victim.
I thought I said this yesterday or 2 days ago. We were speaking in like on voice. I thought I said that. Yeah, of course. Obviously, I do. Didn't I say that? That's where I thought you picked up.
What's the abuse?
What's the abuse? I think that your dad kind of picked you out at when you were a little bit younger, and you were kind of like his little sidekick in fighting the rest of the family, essentially.
Okay, but I have a great relationship with my siblings, and you know, I have a close relationship with my dad. What is the fucking problem with that? Have you ever seen an abuse victim, Destiny? Have you ever seen an abuse victim?
Quite a few, yeah.
Okay, do they act like me?
Almost exactly.
Do they have a bright... Oh, okay, so most abuse victims have a bright personality, they're fun, they're engaging, and they're skinny and pretty. No, they're fat, blue-haired lesbians.
There are plenty of incredibly pretty abuse victims. I wouldn't say that you have a bright personality. I think you can be quite biting at times. But I think that you've picked up a lot of behaviors from your dad. I think that you are incredibly isolated with him. I think that him and you together, which is kind of weird, work as an attack on a family, on your family. You seem to fight with him a lot. I've seen you do it with your brother. I've seen you do it with your mom. And it feels like he looks at you way more as a friend and partner, not romantically, but a friend partner, more than like a father-daughter.
Yeah, I'm friends with my dad. Are you friends with your dad?
No, they're my parents. I'm friendly now, I guess, but I'm 34. I'm an adult.
I'm an adult too. I'm not a baby.
I mean, you are an adult. You're 20 years old.
Yeah, I'm an adult, so I can be friends with my parents.
Yeah,
Are
but
you an
you
abuse victim because you're friends with your parents?
You didn't start becoming friends with your parents when you were 20. You started at 14 or 15 when he took you away from your mom and moved you into a hotel for a while claiming that she was the one abandoning the family.
He did not take me away. That was years into it, and I left with him, and I was 18 at the time, because we moved here, and then a year later, I was 18 or 19, and I left, and I said, I can't take it anymore.
Did you say you can't take it anymore, or did he tell you that you couldn't take it anymore? Because it sounds like all of the abuse that you recognize was done with his assistance.
I couldn't take any more living with a mother who didn't want me in her house because she thought I was stealing her husband. Does that ever occur to you that that could be the situation?
Does it ever occur to you that she might have a legitimate reason for feeling that way? If her husband was distant from her, wasn't helping her run the restaurant, was avoiding her in the household, and then was getting closer to you, going through your phone, looking at things, and then talking about leaving the household,
okay.
Do you think that she might feel...
So you side with a mother who said that she was angry at me for taking her husband away from her and that she wanted me to commit suicide. Good for you, dude. You're a defender of abuse victims, for sure. I was abused by my fucking deadbeat mother.
Okay, so
and
number
you're
one...
another sympathizer.
Sure. Number one, I'm not here to defend abuse victims. I just think you guys are interesting. Number one. Number two, your mom could be abusive as well. I don't actually know that.
Well, you're a fucking coward. We came on, you said you wanted to talk, and then you have all these accusations right afterwards.
I didn't have any accusations. These are just my opinion.
Yeah, you did. You said you thought it was probably inappropriate, but you weren't going to go there. Just fucking say it, dude. I never did anything inappropriate with my fucking dad.
I don't know if you did or not. I am agnostic on that. I'm pretty sure I said just as much. I have no idea.
Why don't you believe me? Why don't you believe me? You're not going to take my word for it? You're not going to listen to me?
No, because
my word means nothing?
During the conversation we had, you were still covering with your dad. I think you probably do it quite often that you cover for your dad. I think you might actually be a little bit smarter than your dad, so you probably help him quite a lot with it.
So my word means nothing. So why the fuck am I on here if you're not going to listen to me?
You don't have to be honest for me to get information from you. Sometimes listening to the things that you guys lie about gives you more information than you guys telling the truth about things.
What have I lied about?
It was more actually your dad's lies, but all the mess ups on timelines, him seemingly not remembering how he got into your phone, and then you graciously volunteering all of the information for us. Like these types of pieces of information, I think, give some kind of insight into the relationship that you two have.
Yeah, you're a weasel. You set up a conversation. You said, hey, you were friendly to me when I came on. You said, hey, I'd like to talk to you and your dad. And you were laughing when you watched the videos about us. Then you bring us on, you make it super fucking awkward, and then you say, hey, it looks like you guys are lying because it's super awkward and you guys are, skirting around questions. No, we're just trying to have a fucking conversation and you're not responding. I don't know if you're tired or whatever, or you need a coffee, but it fucking sucked. It's not abuse for it to have an awkward situation.
I don't think it was abuse because it was an awkward situation. And right now, I feel like the reason why you're so upset is because me asking a long string of questions of you and your father to figure out kind of what's going on probably reveals more abuse than me just coming in and screaming, did he molest you? Because obviously you guys have probably dealt with accusations like that a million times in the past, but I'm not really interested in making those direct accusations because obviously you guys probably talked around them before. I was just more interested in the dynamic of your family. And it seems like, coming up, it feels like there's a lot of weird points that are hard to explain in terms of how your dad functioned in the family, which isn't that big of a deal. I mean, people make mistakes, but the problem is that it still seems like it's going on today, and your mind seems to be pretty compromised in relation to all of it. But hey, that's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong.
Well, why did you ask us to come on? I just don't understand. It was just awkward.
I didn't think it was awkward at all. I thought it was incredibly interesting.
It was super awkward. And then you say the silent pauses and awkward silences. That means that you're covering for something. And obviously, when something's so awkward, you feel like you're gonna try to get the conversation going.
Yeah, but you typically wouldn't make mistakes or volunteer contradictory information, right?
What was the contradictory information?
Well, for instance, when I asked your dad about the phone thing, it was interesting that he didn't seem to remember if he'd ever been in your phone before, how many times he'd gotten into your phone altogether, how he even got into your phone initially, whether or not he asked you. I feel like that would be a pretty big, usually
That's literally not true. He said, I went into her phone without asking her. He didn't remember exactly what he did, but he said, I went in and I said I was sorry afterwards, so you're a liar.
I asked him directly. This was a direct confrontation, as I literally asked him, how did you get into the phone? And he was like, I don't know. I don't even remember. I don't know how I got into it. Because I said that they normally have passwords and stuff. And then you were the one that supplemented information there to cover his tracks, which is...
Or he just didn't remember. Don't you think you could be reading into something a little bit?
No.
No, so
I think
so
that
you don't.
when you're,
So my word means nothing.
I think that,
well, so I'm just an abuse
hold on,
victim.
I
Okay,
don't think-
fine.
Yeah, well, you can.
What is the point of me fucking being here? I don't understand. My word means nothing.
Well, the point of you being here is
I've been brainwashed, right? I've been fucking brainwashed.
Sure. There's 2 points of you being here. So one is, I'm guessing your dad mainly, maybe you a little bit, really wanted you to talk to me so that you could help both of your guys' like blossoming YouTube careers or whatever, which is fine. I'm okay with that. And
You
the point,
asked me on. You asked him on too.
I did, yeah. I said I'd like to have a talk for you, but I'm sure he was really keen to get you to talk to me. I've seen the logs from Big Papa Fash and all of that of him trying to get you on other streams. I saw off stream, I watched a few videos of you guys, and I saw the other guy saying that he was donating in super chats to try to get you to go on streams and stuff. So I'm sure you guys probably did you guys talk about coming on my stream before you ever reached out to me?
I think we were talking about, yeah, I mean, we were talking about a bunch of stuff because of the Crowder thing. We were like, yeah, we want to talk to some, you know, bigger people because nobody's really taking his side. So, yeah.
Okay, so right there, you gave me kind of like a, maybe. But then you also, I recall
We did.
Yeah, okay, you did,
We
yeah.
talk about all of the YouTube stuff.
That's good, okay. Because I heard you on another stream a while ago enthusiastically say that your dad helped you a lot in preparing for the debate with me. That it was a really big thing for him helping. So
Yeah, he did. He
Yeah.
did. But he didn't he didn't tell me what to say to you. He was just like, you know, reach out and we'll see if we can, like, you know, anybody will take us on.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So does that mean he's helping me or does that mean I'm brainwashed? I don't know. Like,
well, he can help you and you can be, I mean, I don't know if I'd say brainwashed, but like, I feel like you're in a pretty unhealthy world right now in terms of where you're being held at in life for his purposes. Like, I think you're very much being used to kind of advance his emotional, psychological, psychosocial well-being, essentially, right? His relationship with the world, his business stuff on YouTube, the way that he navigates the relationship with his family. It feels like you're like a pretty pivotal part in that, right? Like, you help him in fights with your mom. You help him in fights with your brother. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, but I have more subscribers than him. I mean, my career's taking off, not his, really. I feel kind of like, oh, okay, well, he's really helping me.
But it's going to probably be at his behest. And I'm guessing, this is just a guess, but do you ever help financially support him for anything?
No.
Never? Do you guys make any money from YouTube stuff at all yet?
No. We're kind of living off of, we sold some houses.
How do you sell some houses?
Well, I mean, we already went into my high school sexual history. Do I have to go into my financial history too? We sold some houses.
Well, there was a lot of weird holes in the financial history, but I didn't feel like digging through all the business stuff. I'm very curious, like, for instance, how the restaurant went under, who was the one loaning money to make that restaurant work, and how that was able to all dissolve without you guys losing any of your rental properties. But that's a whole other story. I don't really care that much about the financial stuff.
Well, what your suspicion is, but I don't really, no, I don't help him financially. I don't understand.
Wait.
He doesn't even know I'm on here right now, so go ahead. De-brainwash me,
Wait, he
because
doesn't know.
I'm here.
Wait, okay,
Destiny.
Okay, go.
I got it. No, right now, Grace seems to feel like as though you ambushed her. You made her feel comfortable. You made her seem excited that you were willing to have her and her father on, and all of a sudden the conversation felt super, like, interrogationary, mildly antagonistic, as though you're trying to dig for something that they believe isn't there. But I want to clear something up. Weren't you clear when you were talking to your audience about the fact that you want to sit with them because you want to explore their dynamic, and that's what you are doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I even said that to her when she was on stream. That's what I thought, but... No, I'm pretty sure I said that, actually. I'm not gonna let myself get gaslit here as well. Yeah,
perfect.
I did.
Grace, where is your misconceptions coming from? If he made it clear that he wants to explore the dynamic between you and your father, which includes asking the questions that he did today, why do you feel as though he ambushed you and he presented himself in a way that wasn't true to what he did to you today, you and your father?
Well, I mean, I'd rather if somebody just says, like, hey, do you fuck your dad? Rather than saying, like, hey, how did you feel when your dad went through your phone in this really creepy, low voice? Like, I don't know, dude. I didn't love it, but, like, also, I feel like I have to respect him as a parent, and it's okay for him to, like, figure out what I'm doing online. It's, subtle. I don't know what to tell you. And then you're like, oh, okay. And there's no response, and there's no joking around. I mean, what the fuck? Are we people? Or, like, is this social situation? Or are you just autists?
Well, so the thing is that...
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so the thing is that, and maybe this is because you haven't had a normal development, that answer, in my opinion, is very strange, right? most teenage girls that are 13, 14, 15 are going to be really aggravated if parents are going through their phones. The fact that you volunteer that information that early shows me that you guys must have had some type of like abnormally close relationship at that age. And then especially with him claiming that the mom is being abusive and offering no explanation for why she might be feeling the way she does, when it sounds like she had a really reasonable collection of feelings based on everything that I've been told.
Oh yeah, it was reasonable for her to say that she wanted me to commit suicide. Let's go ahead and hear that, Cope. Go ahead. Yep.
Didn't your dad say that he wanted your brother to kill himself too?
No.
Really? I could have sworn that I heard a stream where he was telling your brother to kill himself. You were telling me I didn't hear him say this multiple times?
Okay, yeah, he was like, yeah, go kill yourself. But like, my mother said, I want her to commit suicide.
Sure.
That's
so
different.
I don't know
That's
the
a different
context of
thing.
when your mother said that. And if she did say that, it's not acceptable. But the stress that she was feeling relating to the restaurant stuff and everything like that seemed to be totally reasonable to me, but it was presented as though she was insane. That's very strange to me.
Well, a wife is supposed to support her husband. She was resentful about the restaurant thing ever since he started it. She failed. Sorry. Maybe it wasn't her fault, but she failed as a wife. You're supposed to support your husband.
But it didn't sound like your husband, or I'm sorry, Freudian slip. It didn't sound like her husband needed support. It sounded like he needed a mom, because it sounded like, by his own admission, that he was out back smoking cigarettes while she was trying to run everything on her own. That was his own words. Your dad said that. So it didn't seem like he was very present during the business. Yeah, go ahead.
This is back to the Steven Crowder thing. I'm not saying it's her fault, but if you undermine a man, eventually he will say like, well, I can't really access you. You're freaking out constantly. I guess you just end up in a very difficult position. I'm not saying it was her fault, but she was angry and she wanted it to be a crisis to prove to my dad that he couldn't run a business.
What was she doing to undermine your dad?
Well, he'd try to talk to her and say like, okay, we need to work things out. And she'd just say, no, I have to go in. I have to go in.
What do you mean work things out? Work what thing out?
Well, we need to work out this restaurant thing is not, we need to like
Yeah, but what was he doing to work out the restaurant? It sounds like he didn't learn any of the recipes. It sounds like he didn't find any more help besides some of the Ethiopians. Like, what was he doing to act? Because it sounds like this is just what the story you guys told me, so maybe I'm wrong, but from what you guys told me, it sounded like she was basically doing all the work on her own.
I'm sorry, I got distracted by your chat. He said his hand is literally inside her asshole and she's being puppeteered right now, Destiny. Perfect, that's perfect. But yeah, no, he was running other parts. She agreed to be the manager. She wasn't the manager. And I'm not mad at her for this, but she just did all the work for these fucking people. And, she got overwhelmed by that, but she didn't manage them. And he agreed to be running the other stuff like advertising and promotions and going to events and, getting the restaurant out there.
Advertising and promotions and going to events? Doug, I'm not trying to be mean, but you guys are running a local restaurant. There is no such thing as going to events. Advertising is probably going to be an ad in the newspaper or maybe a WePrint or whatever website. Like, what all is he working on the side here? Managing the restaurant is
You have no fucking idea what you're talking about. Catering events and advertising are a huge part of a restaurant.
Well,
you have no idea. We had tons of catering
You guys were
events.
doing catering? That was the primary thrust of your income?
No, I'm saying he was the social side of it, and she said she'd manage the, interior running of it. I don't know what to tell you. She'd manage the kitchen, essentially, and he was going to manage the front and the advertising and all the business
hold on.
aspects
Managing
of it.
the front is not the same as being a restaurant manager. Was she just a supervisor or the sous chef or what? Because just being in back of house and managing back of house is not managing a restaurant.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I would say the back of the house. Yeah, like the kitchen. The kitchen essentially was what she was in charge of, and my dad was in charge of, the waiters and all the, that kind of stuff. The front of the house stuff, the advertising, that.
Okay, you're giving me a lot of different types of jobs here. But if
it was complicated. He meant to start the restaurant to pass it off to his, Ethiopian friend, but the Ethiopian friend backed out of it, and he was like, I don't want to do this. So then my dad and mom were kind of like, okay, well, let's try to make this work. But she got resentful and undermined him, and he tried to make it work, and
I'm not
it eventually
understanding.
failed.
So here's what I think is happening right now, okay? And I understand this is going to sound insulting, but you keep using some of these phrases. He was undermined by her. I don't think you believe that actually happened. I don't think you witnessed that happen. I don't think you were old enough to see that happen. I think that these are things your dad has told you about her, and that's why when I'm asking you, and I'll ask you again, I'll give you an opportunity because I could be wrong, but when I ask you, how did she undermine him? I don't think you have any examples of that, because it sounds like if he was running front of house and he was manager for the restaurant and she's just like a kitchen lead, right, helping line cooks, then I don't know how any of this was her fault or how she could even undermine him.
Well, I can tell you a specific experience I had. I remember he was looking for a building to have the restaurant in, and we were walking around our neighborhood, and there were a bunch of like open buildings, and we were going from place to place, and he was like, wow, this could be really great. And I just remember looking at her, and she just had this look of like anger on her face, and I was like, whoa. And I was like, what's wrong? It seems like Dad's trying to start something here. And she just was angry, and she got rid of it pretty quickly, but I was like, oh, okay, so like she kind of thinks Dad's wrong for doing this. And then that seeped into me and all my siblings, and we all kind of thought our dad was a fucking failure for doing this restaurant that actually was a good idea. But she was angry from the start. I don't know what she was angry at. Maybe that she couldn't be a stay-at-home mom, but you're supposed to support your husband. I'm sorry, that's what you sign up for. That's what she signed up for, is to listen to your husband and support him.
So that is absolutely not what a healthy relationship looks like, even in a conservative world. You don't sign up to just acquiesce to everything your husband demands, okay? It's a partnership, number one. Number two...
No, that's not what she signed up for, and she damn well knows it. And if she was here right now, she'd tell you, no, I didn't sign up for that. I signed up for him to be the leader and me to be the supporter. She'd tell you that. Even after all this, she would tell you that. She knows what she signed up for.
Okay, Grace, okay. Number two, maybe she was unhappy because it was a bad location or she had a bad feeling about it, but it seems like it didn't work out. So were her feelings not a little bit justified?
Yeah, it didn't work out because she wasn't fucking supportive. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't understand how she's just in kitchen and he's doing all front of house and he's the manager. How is she sabotaging the business solo?
Because she was angry, right? So when the employees weren't doing a good job, she would take that anger out on me and my siblings and herself, and she would just do it all instead of just saying to him like, look, this isn't working. She was angry at him, right? So she wanted him to feel bad and she wanted to make herself look like she was the martyr. I'm sorry. So she'd run around doing everything. All of us kids felt bad for her. We all felt like our dad was running this restaurant that wasn't failing, and he would try to talk to her, try to calm her down, try to say maybe we could work something else out, and she just was fucking pissed.
Okay, but how does that ruin the restaurant if she's only in back of house?
Well, if a couple is running a restaurant and she's actively not managing the employees so that she can use her time effectively and then taking it out on the kids and blaming it on the dad, that business is going to fail.
Well, then it sounds to me like, wouldn't you then as the manager decide to move your wife out of that business and just hire an employee and have the wife stay at home or do something peripheral to it? Isn't that the point of being the owner or manager of the business?
Yeah, and you could make that criticism that he didn't end it soon enough. You could make that criticism. I understand that.
Well, you don't have to end it soon enough. So I'm assuming you don't know much about me. So my background is in restaurant work, right? That's what I did for 2 or 3 years at a casino. I was a supervisor in a small cafe, to be fair. Okay, so I know a little bit about how kitchens work, and I know a little bit about front of house and back house. I know a little bit about managers and sous chefs and prep work. But what I'm trying to figure out is I don't know how an angry kitchen lead, because that's what you're telling me is it sounds like now she was just like a lead for the kitchen, which I'm guessing was probably not her job, because it's pretty rare for women to be line cooks or for women to work back of house like that. Just in my personal experience, I could be wrong. I'm trying to figure out how she could have ruined everything back there, because everything you're telling me sounds to me like your dad told you that she ruined it all because he made mistakes and he doesn't want to own up to that, and he's trying to build the narrative in your eyes that your mom was self-destructive and ultimately destructive to the family. That's what I'm hearing from you. Now, if you have any concrete example for how my mom did this and that's what ruined the business, I'd be a little bit more keen to accept that at face value, but it doesn't seem like that's what I'm hearing right now. I just feel like I'm hearing a lot of anger and resentment from your dad.
All right, I can give you an example. We used to go in early, me and her, and we'd prep. We'd do prep, right?
Yep.
This was once in a while, maybe on weekends, right? And I'd sit there and I'd make these fucking things called sambusas. They were like Indian wraps, sort of, whatever. So she would sit there and she'd go down to make the bread, and then she'd come back up and she'd scream at me and she'd go, "You didn't fucking make those right?" And she'd throw them or whatever. And I kind of thought like, okay, I'm being bad, I'm not paying attention or whatever. Now, it's her responsibility in that situation to either say, this isn't working for me and I needed to make a change, or, you know what, I'm going to calm down and make this a healthy relationship between me and my daughter. It's not okay to take that out on your daughter, whether you have a problem with your husband or not, right? So you have to admit, there was some abuse from her. She was angry and she took it out on me. I think she was wrong to be angry, but whether you want to say she was wrong or right, she was angry and she took it out on her kids, and you shouldn't do that.
Would you say then, okay, I can, sure. So when she thought that you were making mistakes in the back of the house, instead of her trying to like find a way to work together with you to kind of like come to some like resolution for things, she would basically just start like throwing stuff around, being very like demeaning towards you, talking shit. She like wasn't kind of ever working towards solutions.
Yeah, I remember one time I was upstairs and I fell asleep with my baby sister on my lap, and my baby sister fell off, and I was like 11 years old at the time, and she screamed at me. She said I was gonna kill my sister, and you wouldn't believe the guilt that I felt for that, right? Because I was up late and everything. Okay, you shouldn't do that to your kids. Even if your problem is with your husband, you shouldn't take it out on your kids. Now, I don't think her problem was with my dad. I think her problem was that, you know, she wasn't ready to be a supportive wife. But either way, you'd have to admit, that's not okay to do. And my dad didn't do shit like that. He was just distant.
Yeah, so I agree with what you're saying now. Okay, and I'm believing these feelings. They sound real to me, right? You're saying that she fucking screamed, that she threw things, that she was shouting at you, and that it's not fair for her to take that out on you. When you were defending Steven Crowder's treatment of Hillary, I thought you said that the only thing that mattered was that what he was saying was being correct. Because you were saying there that him talking rudely or using a condescending tone didn't rise to the level of abuse, but now it sounds to me like the only thing your mom really did was said that like, hey, the way that you put this food together was incorrect, but based on the tone she used or the way she treated you, it feels like you did feel like that was abusive, no?
No, she was wrong to... It wasn't my fault, the things I was doing. I was trying my best.
Sure.
It wasn't my fault. She was wrong to just be so harsh on me. She was wrong to do that.
Sure.
But also she was wrong to... Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, if I had a clip, she wasn't always like this, but sometimes when she was really upset...
Yeah, I believe you. I'm just saying that it seems that like...
Her tone would also be abusive, yeah.
Yeah, but it sounds to me like the big thing you're focusing on here is that she made you feel bad because of how aggressive she was, because she was screaming and throwing things. It really didn't have much to do exactly with what she was saying to you, but it was more just kind of her approach and tone to everything is what felt abusive, which, by the way, is a totally fine position to take. I would agree that it is.
Or if somebody's tone, but her content was the content of what she was saying to me was wrong.
The content of saying you were making these things incorrect, were you making them correctly and she was just wrong on that? Did you as an 11 or 12-year-old know how to put these together perfectly and she was just making up problems?
She was blaming me for something that I was not responsible for. It was super early in the morning. I was trying my best and she took out her anger on me for not doing it perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. But you were making a mistake.
So she was wrong.
Sure, I agree. Her tone was incorrect. The way that she was approaching it was incorrect. She probably could have been a lot more patient. I don't disagree. Remember, I said earlier, your mom's probably abusive too. It usually, in these types of really weird situations, multiple parties are at fault. It's not just one party. So I'm not going to sit here and argue that your mom was a perfect person. But it feels strange to me that you were so much more eager to defend Steven Crowder's point of view on everything. Whereas for your mom, you were very focused when you described that to me on tone and not on content. You weren't telling me that she was calling me a horrible daughter, she was saying these evil things to me. The quotes that I wrote from you is that she fucking screamed, she threw things, she shouted at me, she shouldn't take this out on me. Those were the feelings that you had at the time, and they seem to be related more to her tone than anything she actually said to you.
Well, if you want to talk about that, Steven Crowder did not scream, he didn't throw things, and he didn't yell at her, so
he absolutely didn't,
I don't think it holds up.
Do you think there have ever been times where your dad was being abusive towards you?
Yeah.
So why
He's
are you more...
taken things out on me, but
Sure.
not to the extent at all. Not to the same extent at all. I've taken things out on my siblings. Nobody's perfect, but there was a difference. There was a distinct difference.
Sure, there might have been. I haven't witnessed what your mom said to you. Now you tell me that your mom said about you that she wished you killed herself. I'm pretty sure I watched a video of your dad saying that he wanted to go upstairs and put his hand through your face or something. He wanted to beat the shit out of you. I don't know if he's ever hit you before or anything. But that seems to be pretty similar in terms of accusation.
Well, I don't know exactly how to say it, but there's a difference. My dad he'll say you're driving me crazy, but he doesn't mean it in the same way. When my mom kind of had this conversation, she was like, yeah, I do kind of want her to die. I don't want her to be here.
Do you think
and
the difference?
We're missing context. We're missing context of the situation.
Yeah, that's not relevant. Do you think the difference is that your dad knows that he has some kind of hold on you, so he's more concerned with maintaining that, and your mom felt like she was losing you, so that's why she was maybe pushing a little bit more away?
That's why she said she wanted me to die?
I mean, your dad said he wanted to kill you, but you seem more willing to forgive your dad than you were your mom, right?
I'm willing to forgive her for that. I'm just saying she's always made me feel like I'm not allowed in the houses that she's in because she got this fucking thing in her head that I was stealing her husband. I mean, do you realize how crazy that is to say to your 15-year-old daughter, even if there was something going on? How could you blame the daughter? She blamed me.
I agree with you, okay? Not only do I agree with you, a mother should never say that to her daughter, and none of this stuff should ever be on you whatsoever to resolve. But then the question would be, is what steps was your father taking to resolve these issues? Because it seems like he still hasn't gotten a divorce. It seemed like he was reticent to move you guys out until, a business failed, until he got upset about things? What were the steps that he was taking to alleviate the suffering you had here that weren't directly self-serving to him?
Well, when the restaurant failed, he went through sort of he was considering suicide, frankly, because he felt like he had failed our family, and it was a very rough time for him. He kind of went through a depressive state.
I don't understand why the restaurant. Wait, real quick. I don't understand why the restaurant failing would leave him suicidal if you said he was also managing multiple rental properties at the time and had started and ended multiple other businesses before the restaurant.
Well, he hadn't started, and the only things he had were the rental properties.
Oh, okay.
He had been a high school teacher before the restaurant.
Oh, okay. So if he was running these multiple rental properties, why would he be suicidal because the restaurant business fails?
Well, because it was kind of his baby, and he really wanted it to work, and he wanted us, to make money, and he invested a lot in it, and he was up he was 24 hours a day with his fucking restaurant, and he really wanted to make it work. And he still had the rental properties, but I think this happened in 2000. The restaurant was from 2000. What was it? 2010 to 2015, something like that. So, I don't know what to say. It was a rough time in the market. The apartments weren't getting a lot of money. We were dumpster diving for a little while. It kind of got rough. And my mom actually said to him, I think, she said, I've considered you committing suicide for, insurance, whatever, life insurance, too. And he was like, wow, okay.
Did you hear her say that, or did he tell you she said that?
Well, he told me, but then she admitted it later. So, she admitted it herself.
Do you find it inappropriate that he confides so much in you about evil things about your mom?
Well, I mean, she's, no, because the thing is, when things get so crazy, I think he was trying to make me understand, she's got psychological issues. It's not, you don't have to feel guilty, Grace, because the thing is, I feel guilty all the time, and it's not because I'm a bad person. It's because, she had issues. So did he. He's admitted he was, weak, but, it was sort of a fucked up situation. And then, when he kind of tried to, he really did think he was married to my mom 5 years ago. He really did think, he was married to her, and then we were going to work it out. But he saw that she was kind of very cold to me, and he was like, okay, well, maybe we can work this out. And then she flipped the fuck out. I mean, she started treating me like I wasn't even her daughter. She really did. She really did.
Did she ever have any of these problems with any of the other kids?
Yeah, she has a very difficult relationship with my brother John, and my other siblings, they've kind of stayed out of it, and I totally understand that, and I'm super sympathetic with them staying out of it as much as they can, but they all feel super, super alienated from her now, and, they're still sympathetic, and they try to reach out to her, but they don't, they're alienated from my dad, too, frankly. It's just sort of, he tries to, we try to hang out. They're alienated from me. I don't know, it's kind of a fucked situation. I'm not really trying to blame my mom as in, that it's her fault, but I do think, my dad did not have bad intentions coming into this. He thought we were going to work something out with our family. He thought they were going to be happy and be married, and then, she kind of flipped out, and then things got worse and worse, and he kept trying to say, hey, we can be a family. We can have cookouts. We can, relax. It's going to be okay. And she just got worse and worse. She really did.
Do you think them ultimately breaking up was your fault?
My fault? No, of course not. Why would it be my fault?
Oh, I don't think it was. I'm just curious if you feel that way. What'd your dad tell you was the main reason why it didn't work out?
Well, he told me that, you know, that their marriage never really, that they weren't married, that
they were married, right?
Yeah, that, you know, they're gonna pursue an annulment. The thing is, the Catholic Church, it's a long story. You have to get a divorce
regardless
first,
of any
and the whole
annulment, they
thing.
were married, right? We step outside of the kooky Catholic world, we come to the real world. They had 6 children, right? They were running a business together, shared houses and stuff. So it sounds like your parents were married. They shared life as husband and wife together, right?
Yeah, they were legally married and married in the eyes of the Catholic Church, but in order to be married, you have to have a certain level of maturity, and you know, I just don't, from what I've seen of what my mom does, I just don't think she has the level of maturity that's okay for her. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't think she knew what she was getting into.
Do you think your dad has that level of maturity to manage that relationship?
I think maybe he didn't quite know what he was getting into either, but like he wanted to better himself, and she kind of, you know, she kind of hoped for a perfect marriage, and then when it started falling apart, she just kind of lost it. And I think he always did try to keep it together. So I think that's the difference. I think he was more mature than her, but I do think he was a weak person and she was a weak person when they got married. I think that's true.
Sure. So do you think he was the type of person that can keep that relationship working?
Do I think he is the type of person?
Do you think he's capable of doing it? Does he have the maturity to keep that relationship working?
With my mom?
Mm-hmm. Because you seem to be saddling all the blame on her, when I can see firsthand, and I think everybody can, that he seems to have a lot of maturity problems as well, right?
I think he's a very mature person. He's very, 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 you know, emotionally understanding. He helps me, but he's firm when he needs to be, and I don't know, I think he's very mature. I think a lot of the pain he's been through has made him more mature.
How do you tell when your dad is helping you through an emotional problem that you have, and he's not just trying to reframe your emotions in ways that are beneficial to him?
Well, I mean, because they have the ring of truth. I don't know what to say. It's like when somebody tells you something and they're trying to manipulate you, I guess you could say I'm so brainwashed that I don't recognize it, but I mean, I know what truth sounds like, and he's caring but firm, and he always has been.
Yeah, but how do you know that? Well, for instance, like, do you have a lot of times? I can't ask this now because you're not going to answer. Jeez, it seems like you saddle a lot of blame on your mom when I think most people can see that your dad acts with a decent lack of maturity. Like, I don't think most parents would scream at their kids and say, I wanted to go kill my child or whatever. Not with any degree of seriousness, at least. And then the screaming matches that he's had with your brother are pretty extreme as well.
I mean, those screaming matches, you fail to understand. My brother was an adult at the time. My dad helped him to get his own apartment. And then you don't think my brother was, I love my brother very much, but you don't think he was just sitting there screaming at my dad on those calls? You think my dad comes off as the immature one?
Yeah, I mean, your brother is a kid, right?
Yeah, but my dad lets my brother talk, and then he says, "Can I please talk? Can I please talk?"
No, they
and
were screaming at each other.
Screaming.
So your dad was talking to a child, right? 18 years old as a child. Now your brother alluded.
No, it's not a child. That's an adult. 18
years old compared to a 40, 50-year-old person is absolutely a child. Okay.
It's a young adult.
I'm never going to get in a
child to spin it that way.
I'm not. I'm just saying it because
like he's abusing a
I'm
child.
not going to get in a screaming match with a 17 or 18-year-old about a living situation because then we're both children at that point. It's just not going to happen.
Okay, you don't respect adults. Okay, fine. Go ahead. What's next?
Your brother mentioned something about your dad saying something incorrect on the lease. What was that in reference to?
Yeah, the landlord wouldn't give my 18-year-old brother a place, so my dad co-signed for it, he told my brother, it's your place, so that my brother would feel like, okay, it's my own place, I'm gonna pay my own rent. He didn't want my brother to be paying my dad rent. He wanted him to pay the landlord, and my dad would just co-sign so that he was responsible, but the landlord would trust him, so he wasn't trust an 18-year-old boy. That's what he did. It was really fucking generous because he took all the responsibility of the apartment on himself, and he was trying to help my brother learn how to be responsible.
Yeah, but it sounds like your brother was saying your dad filled out something different on the lease that he wasn't aware of. He made an allusion to that, but it never got further explored in that conversation.
He wasn't aware of it, because if he had been aware of it, he would have said, "Oh, my dad's just running, it's my dad's apartment." And my dad really didn't want him to feel like that, but he knew my brother would have a hard time getting a nice place for the, the price he got it at as an 18-year-old male. So
So you're saying
shitty apartment.
So you're saying that your dad co-signed the lease, but your brother was unaware of it.
Well, yes, essentially, yes.
Okay, you understand that to most people that sounds really bad, right?
No, I mean, from the way I've explained it, I'm saying his 18-year-old son, my brother John's been through a lot. He wanted him to have a nice place for himself.
So why wouldn't he just say that? Why wouldn't he say, hey, let me help you co-sign a lease? How would your brother not know that there was a co-sign on that lease? When you go to fill out a lease in an apartment, they're going to ask both people to fill the lease out. Was your dad handling all the paperwork for him and then just co-signed and didn't tell him?
My dad worked something out with the landlord, okay? And the landlord's a really nice guy, and he said, okay, I'll let your 18-year-old kid live here, but you've got to be responsible and pay a little something up front. My dad said, okay.
Do you think that
you want to call that abuse? Go ahead. I call it being a generous dad.
Do you think that gave your dad a little bit more control over that apartment? Like the ability to evict your brother? Or the ability to enter the premises whenever he wanted to unannounced?
Well, my brother knew my dad could enter the premises when he signed. That was part of the agreement. But, he couldn't evict him. He was legally allowed to be there. He never got evicted by my dad.
Okay, he might not have. Why did your dad ever enter the apartment? For what purposes?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's like, we're family, so my dad would go up there. I mean, he helped co-sign for the apartment, and he would, I don't know, help him get going with stuff, talk with us. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, when you said go up there, is this just upstairs?
Well, yeah, my dad had an office downstairs. It was a half apartment, half office space. So he got the apartment upstairs was open, and my brother turned 18, and my dad was like, okay, I'll get this place for him.
Gotcha. None of this sounds very generous at all. It sounds like a whole bunch of things, but generous isn't anywhere near the top of my head on what I would describe this as, but...
Okay, well... My dad's a good guy. Bye.
See you later.
What? No, shit. Oh, what the f***? I almost climaxed. Unlucky.
Jesus. She's like mind f***ed, right?
Oh my god, dude. First of all, I'll let that little bro moment slide. I know all you niggas caught onto it. I'm gonna let it slide, but what the f***? Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, do you really think that it's not generous? The 18-year-old with an apartment part thing. I could see how it's controlling as fuck. But at the same time, if the 18-year-old wanted to move out and he didn't have the capability, to fucking afford an apartment.
So here's like a trick, okay? I noticed this, all right? If I ever try to help somebody, okay? Generally, in order for it to be sincere help, if I try to help somebody, I'm trying to give them something that they can take on their own and then go out into the world and use in a way that's helpful for them, right? If you want to help somebody, that's what you do. If you're trying to control somebody, then what you do is you give them gifts that tie them back to you. That's like a really common strategy, because what it does is it always lets you frame what you're doing through generosity, but it allows you to maintain a level of control over the other person. So if he truly is trying to get out into the world, he's looking for apartments, and all of a sudden dad comes by and says, hey, I've got a place for you. It works really well. I can co-sign. You're going to be upstairs, right? Is that really a generous gift, especially if the dad is entering whenever he wants? Does that feel like a generous gift to you?
So you think, because there were strings attached, it's not really a gift. It's like a Trojan horse. Yeah, I'm giving you this, but there's also a lot of other things that you have to do for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, basically. Or it's a way. Hold on. Somebody real quick says they have a YouTube video of the dad invading the brother's space. One second.
I said, okay, fine. I don't care. You can come in my room if you want. And he came in my room. I started playing music to try to get him to leave. I was trying to de-escalate the situation. And he grabbed my speaker and smashed it on the wooden floor. And also, he threw a shoe at my kittens.
Yeah, okay. So this is exactly what I would have thought. Yeah. It basically it gives him more access to the sun. Yeah.
Okay, I see. I mean, it's kind of confusing, because when she first came in here, her grievance with you was the fact that it turned something that she thought would be just a friendly conversation turned into an interrogation about the dynamic that they've had between each other.
Here's what I don't think that first of all, she's delivering her father's words to me, right? That's what she's bringing to me, really, right? He probably expressed some frustration. Number one. Number two, she knew it was going to be a confrontational conversation, but what she probably expected was they were going to come on and I was going to say, have you molested your daughter? Did you really spank her ass? And they've probably had these questions so many times, they could run me through the hamster wheel on that until I'm like blue in the face and I'm completely out. Because I'm not going to get them on like, did you fuck your daughter? They already know all the answers to that. But when it was a more drawn out conversation, the dad was getting really frustrated. Grace was probably getting upset, seeing her dad being frustrated. And that's probably what kind of set them down this road. Like, I didn't know it was going to be so confrontational. But that's probably what happened. That's my guess.
I mean, yeah, we agreed on that being probably what happened because the guy himself was like, "Dude, aren't you gonna ask me if I f my daughter?"
Yeah, I think he did that twice. Yeah.
Yeah, he did that. He did that repeatedly. Like, aren't you gonna ask me that? Like, fucking ask me if I'm a fucking molester. Stop asking me all of these. Stop beating around the bush. I think he said that multiple times. Stop beating around the bush. Just say what you actually mean. So, do you think? But you know, in hindsight, do you think maybe you should have sprinkled in a couple of accusations to keep the conversation spicy enough for him not to f***ing mauled and leave?
No, I didn't want to run down any of the explosive dialogue trees because my guess is after that they would have lost total interest in the conversation. They probably thought that the whole conversation was me trying to set them up for that big question, but then if I would have asked any of the big questions, they probably would have been uninterested in answering, and then you would have been going back to glazing me on like the centrism shit or talking about debate platforms or whatever.
Or they would have gotten what they wanted because they were hoping that, you know, Big Bad Destiny would start shitting on them on the thing that everybody else did and they'd get a good YouTube video out of it, but you didn't give it to them, whilst also still making it incredibly uncomfortable, basically trying to figure out whether the dad is, you know, a PDF file and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I could see why he got frustrated. I think it's very apparent.
Also, something that's very interesting, is so important in these situations to keep the timeline straight. When she's talking about like the failing business and everything and her mom failing to live up to all of her standards or whatever, right? Keep in mind that when this was happening, what was she? She was like, what, ages 8 to 14? There's no way she would perceive any of this shit. All of these are things that her dad has told her continuously. And that's why I kept trying to push her for examples on what happened in the restaurant. Because when she's saying like, oh, my mom caused the business to fail, what she's really saying is my dad told me my mom caused the business to fail. And if the business did fail because the dad mismanaged it, which honestly probably sounds like what happened, right? He was the one that chose to do the business and the business failed. So it was probably mostly his fault. It's easy for him to shift all the blame onto the mom, tell Grace why it was the mom's fault. And now she's repeating all of those reasons back to me, right? But she wasn't old enough when she's 9 years old to know if her mom is failing at managing a restaurant, but she'll repeat it back to me like she was because it was her dad's perspective at the time she's giving me, I think.
Don't you think that it's a mixture of both her father and her hating her mother for the way that she treated her, right? Because between the father and the mother, it seems to me like she believes that her father treated her a lot better than the mother did, right? So obviously she'd be much more biased towards the father, right? Don't you think that's probably like one of the biggest reasons as to why she's against the mother, even though she's acknowledged herself that her father was a weak man? She said it on multiple occasions. She probably has a lot more that she wants to say that she doesn't, just for the simple fact that she has a good relationship. I mean, you know, relatively, she has a good relationship with her father that she doesn't have with her mother, and she kind of hates her mother for yelling at her as a child, and she labels it as abusive. And by the way, you rightfully pointed out how ironic it was for her to label that as abusive, even though, you know, the whole Steven Crowder situation, she said it's not abusive, it's just words. But most of the abuse examples that she brought up with her mother was the fact that her mother was yelling at her and shit. So that was kind of interesting. But don't you think that's mainly it, right? That she just likes her father more because she feels like her mom, you know, wasn't on her side, whereas her father was on her side.
Yeah, her father
was a bit absent.
Yeah, but the problem is the way that her father. This is my personal philosophy. Okay, my relationship with my kid's mom was really bad pre him being born. Okay, we don't. It was really, really, really bad. But as a parent, in my mind, I think that the worst thing, I consider this automatically abuse. I think the worst thing you can ever do, there's two horrible things. One is fighting in front of your kid. And when I say fighting, I don't mean like disagreeing about what restaurants to go to, but like having like serious relationship fights in front of your kid, I think is so horrible, number one. And then number two, the only thing that's worse than that is using your kid against the other parent. Anytime you ever, I don't think ever, you should never as a child hear one of your parents slander or badmouth the other parent to you. Anytime that's happening, that is one of the biggest red flags ever. When mom is saying, oh, you just don't understand. Your dad he's a horrible guy and you're not old enough. Or when your dad is saying shit like, yeah, your mom is she's a fucking lunatic. She's fucking crazy. Anytime shit like that starts happening, shit is going in a really, really, really bad direction. And I think her dad does that to her all the time. But her dad also, he kind of functions like a pimp, right? And that there are some psychological needs that she needs met because she's a girl. She's a little girl. She's still a little girl. She's 20 years old, right? But she has no validation, anything her entire life. Her dad probably gives her that in bits and pieces while using her to attack the mom. So he also has a lot of leeway with her as well, because if he's her only source of like psychological like well-being, right, he can also be abusive as fuck to her as well. And anytime he's mean to her, she's probably reframing it as though it's her fault. That's why he can say evil things to her like, oh, I wanted to kill her, and she's thinking like, well, yeah, I guess I did fuck up. Or when Crowder is mean to Hillary, she's thinking like, yeah, well, maybe Hillary's not doing her wifely duties. In her mind, she's probably thinking like, yeah, maybe I didn't do my daughterly duties, right? I think it all kind of like links together.
Okay, so I agree with you, but I want to know, do you think that confiding in his daughter about, the very strained relationship that he had with her mother, his wife, do you think that also counts as him, pitting the daughter against the mother?
Yeah, I don't think you can ever. Well, no, hold on. I think that like once your kids are like adults and they've moved out, maybe you can have those conversations. So like if you've got like if your kid's like 25 or 30 and you're like, oh man, okay, let's talk a little bit. Like, yeah, dad drove me crazy, blah, blah, blah. There's a way that your relationship changes once you're out of the house and you come back and talk to your parents. You're more like friends, and it's a very obvious change. Hopefully for most kids, where when you start talking to your parents, you're both adults now, and you can be a little bit more frank about like what was dad like or what was mom like with blah blah blah. But when your child is still very much your kid, your child, I don't think you can ever confide in your child about things like that. It's horrible to do, right? If anything, in my opinion, if anything, you should actually be reframing or lying about what the other parent said. Like if her mom really was saying it was your fault, Grace, that I'm breaking up with your dad because I think that he's getting closer than me, her dad should have lied to her. Her dad should have said, I don't think mom really thinks that. I think mom's having a lot of problems right now. This has nothing to do with you, and it has everything to do with the relationship between me and your mom, or stuff that your mom is dealing with. He shouldn't be feeding into that. That's insane to do.
To you, there is no way that you could responsibly confide with your children about the relationship that you have with your wife.
I don't think so.
Way that you could ever.
Unless it's...
Okay.
No, yeah. Because the problem is, in my opinion, this is just in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but in my opinion, children, parental relationships are probably built into us biologically to some extent. And when mom and dad aren't working, it's going to do a lot of really weird things to your mind, right? And the worse that dysfunction is, the more it's going to fuck with you, right? So if there is a breakdown between the parents, then like the best you can do as a parent to your child is like, hey, me and mom are having problems, or, mom has issues and I have trouble dealing with things sometimes. That's the most you can ever explore there. You can't start confiding in your child about problems with your husband or wife. In my opinion, that is totally inappropriate and almost always abusive. Yeah, go. Sorry.
Confiding. No, you're okay. Confiding kind of insinuates that you're just there and it's like, oh my God, I'm so tired with your mother. Your mother does X, Y, and Z, and 1, 2, and 3. Let's say you just keep your children informed, and let's say that both parents do it, right? Let's say there's a scenario where both parents just inform their children like, hey, this is what's going on between me and your father, X, Y, and Z, and 1, 2, and 3. So if you see things that may be slightly different than what you used to, it's probably for this reason. So it's not necessarily confiding, it's just keeping them in the loop of what's going on, and both parents are doing it. So if you, go ahead.
Yeah. So these are just my personal feelings. So people might disagree with me. I don't think you should never burden your children with your problems, right? And you should never burden your children with your significant other problems. Even if mom and dad are going through tough shit, that's not your children's responsibility. You're not supposed to be there telling them all these things going on with mom and dad, because children are going to think about it. They're going to overthink. They have less shit going on in their life so that they can sit there and stress about it. And children are really receptive to those types of things too. So no, I don't think it's ever appropriate unless it gets to the point to where mom or dad are being committed to a psychiatric institution and you need to have a serious conversation. Otherwise, no, mom or dad, they're having problems, but we're doing our best to work things out. You never make your relationship problems the problems of your children. I don't think it's ever appropriate to do that. It's just, I can't, yeah. Go ahead. We can run through sample conversation but I just don't think it's ever appropriate. I think it's horrible.
No. I agree. I just wanted to see where you're coming at it from. I do believe the exact same thing, and I do believe that parents shouldn't burden their children with their problems, because that really fucks with you as a child.
Yeah.
I agree with that. But would you say that her father did that a lot with her, whereas her mother was antagonistic with her, and that is why she is much more likely to be overly emotionally attached and easily mentally fucking just manipulated and brainwashed to just believe anything her father says, because he's the one that set his claws in early? Is that what you'd say? And her mother basically didn't have a chance.
Her mother was probably genuinely neglectful / abusive. That's totally possible.
Based on what? It's plausible, but at the same time, I mean, I know this is not your
because
fault,
I think that because my feeling is that the easiest way that you can get in on somebody, the easiest way you can dig your claws in on somebody, is if they have some sort of fundamental psychological need that's not being met. So if a child feels neglected, unheard, unloved, hated by a parent, if they have those feelings, that's the easiest time for you to sweep in and kind of sink your claws in, and then provide those satisfactions that they need, and then from there you build on the resentment with the other parent. But like if the mom had a really healthy relationship with the daughter, there's not room for the husband to come in and be like, hey, I think your mom's crazy, because she'll look at the husband and be like, what? Fuck you. Me and mom get along great. What do you mean? Right? There has to be some sort of issue there already, I think.
The way that she framed her relationship with her mother was that her mother started to think that there was some sort of affair going on between the father and the daughter, and she decided to blame the daughter for it. But she said that this happened later on, as like when she was 15, right?
Yeah,
did I get that right?
So that's her framing of it, but I don't have the mom here to have that conversation. So here's
no, I wasn't. Yeah, there's more to it, right? So, but she also spoke a lot about when she was like 8, 9, 10, 11, like all the way up to, so it seems like this whole idea of her mother, looking down on her or disliking her or not seeing her in a way that it befits, a mother treating her daughter, right? It seems to me like this happened way before her mother thought that she was sleeping with, her husband. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the thing is that so I view this situation really similar to Lav and Mr. Girl, right? So something that happened with Lav is Mr. Girl took her understanding of everything that had happened between us, and he went and retroactively refit a different understanding of our relationship. When me and Lav were hanging out and doing whatever, and she was coming on stream, I don't think Lav actually felt like I was abusive at all. But Mr. Girl was able to go back and rewrite that and make her feel that way, right? And now when she reframes it, I don't know how much she thinks she's like. She probably still actually she knows she's lying. But that was part of his trying to rewrite it. I think with Grace, it's probably the same thing, where the dad was probably the one getting her fixated on that idea of her mom wanting to or feeling like she was being replaced by her daughter. Her dad probably gave her that idea, and then Grace went back and she retroactively rewrote a lot of their relationship that way. That'd be my guess on that. And I think there's a lot of room there too for, this is where like recordings or verbiage would help too, because there are things that the mom could say that are understandable, and there are things the mom that could say are like totally crazy. Like the mom was like, I think you're f***ing my husband. That would obviously be pretty up. But if the mom is saying things like, I think the relationship that you and your dad have are inappropriate, that could be true. But like Grace could think she's implying something, and her dad will say, oh, she thinks we're f***ing, and that might be why she thinks that, it's hard to say.
Exactly, because I was about to go down that road, right? The fact that the mother would even be slightly suspicious of the fact that her husband is sleeping with her daughter, doesn't that alone bring into question what sort of fucking relationship do these does the father and the daughter have, to where the wife, assuming that she wasn't fucking crazy since the get-go, would suddenly start saying, you're fucking sleeping with my husband, something's going on, this is weird, right?
Yeah.
Like that in itself needs to be brought into question, I believe.
Yeah. And the whole him looking through her phone for shit and then him saying that him going through her phone was how he found out his daughter was being abused. None of that story makes sense at all. That's all super wacky.
You didn't buy it.
No, I mean, that just, all of that sounds really wacky to me. And also him being incredibly cagey about admitting to how he got into her phone and everything. Like they hadn't rehearsed that part of the story. Maybe they hadn't had anybody question them on that before. Like you could tell that Grace kind of jumped in to save him, to start volunteering all the information about how he got in and everything,
Is it that big of a deal, the fact that her father went through her phone?
No. This is so important, okay? it doesn't really matter sometimes what happens. What matters is why people choose to lie about things, right? That's the important thing, right? So like if I say like yesterday I went to a gas station, but instead if I didn't go to a gas station, I actually went to a restaurant. The fact that I went to a restaurant isn't really that big of a deal, but the fact that I would lie about going to a restaurant is a really big deal, right? So it's not really what people say, it's why they lie about things that kind of keys you in that something maybe that they don't want people to know about is going on, or something that he feels ashamed or that he feels like he shouldn't have done is going on. Yeah.
No, I totally see that. I totally see that. But why would you think he would lie about something as simple as going through his daughter's phone? Like, what's so malicious about the way that he figured out how to get into her phone? What could be so fucking crazy that he has to fucking come up with some lie that, I don't know. I don't remember, like, X, Y, and Z, 1, 2, 3. Why would he lie about something like that?
There's a million reasons why. It could be that he was looking for inappropriate stuff. That's one thing. That's what he really wanted me to accuse him of. It could be that he regularly had access to her phone and he could monitor her communications because that's part of his control. So it let him know what she was talking to her friends about, or maybe helping her send messages to her mom, or find out what she was talking to other family members about. It's another form of like control, right? It's really important if you're trying to manipulate somebody that you have as much of them are like in your control as possible. Having external friends. This is another thing. I didn't get to this line of questioning, but like if her dad really loved her, my question for her was going to be, what has your dad done to kind of like help you build your life on your own? Why are you still living in the same house as him? Why are you guys building a YouTube channel together? Why hasn't he helped you find a place yet if he's got all these rental properties? Why isn't he helping you get a job or do anything? Why are you a smoker for 3 years at the age of 20 with no college education who dropped out of high school doing YouTube in a house with your dad? That doesn't make any sense unless he's trying to keep you close, right?
No, okay. Those are all great and all, but I would like you right now to try to attempt to draw the best case scenario as to like how their fucking relationship is, the father and the daughter. Like the worst case scenario, you could do that as well if you'd like to, but best case scenario, you being like super fucking mega good faith, nice, whatever, all that. How do you think their relationship is? It just like a person that's overly concerned with their daughter's well-being and safety?
Yeah, best case scenario is dad is just really immature and is fucked up in life and has had trouble. He's trying to protect his daughter in the only way that he knows how, which is being an ultra helicopter parent, over controlling. And he's not like grown up enough to send his daughter out of the world, and he's genuinely concerned for her. Like that's like probably the best case rating, but that's a very, very, very slim, narrow reading, I think. And based on his eccentric behavior, the answers to his questions, how cagey he is when talking about these things, and all the things he's admitted to doing, I find it hard to believe. That's like a low probability event, I think.
Okay. Worst case scenario. What's the worst case?
Worst case scenario is some sort of like ongoing sexual abuse or something, sexual plus physical abuse, which I don't think that's happening, but I mean, I can't really know that. I think the most likely worst case is just everything I've said so far. He's just like a really manipulative, abusive person. He keeps her close for a variety of reasons. He probably feels good having her close. It helps him bully the rest of the family. It gives him some control of his life because he's got control over another person. Yeah, I mean, it's always nice if you can like have a little minion that you kind of control for everything, right?
So your worst case scenario does not include sexual abuse whatsoever?
It could, but I don't have any evidence for that. So like, why needlessly speculate?
I mean, I guess that's fair. It's the way. I mean, it is the worst case scenario. So,
but he could also be using her too for like to build his career as well, right? Like if he is genuinely trying to do something on YouTube, using his daughter as essentially a honeypot, which is I think what he did to me, and he probably does it to other people as well. It's probably like a good tactic for him, right?
Yeah, actually true. Yeah, I could see that as well. Interesting. I think you. Do you think you'll ever talk to him again? Because I think it might happen. I mean, if you're down for it, I think he'll always be down to talk to you, no matter like the fucking outburst that he had. I don't believe it.
The audience is too big. I think people were saying they were talking about canceling the debate tomorrow. I don't think so. The only way he would ever consider that is if I think he felt like his daughter was starting to believe me more than him, or if there was any inkling of that. If that was the case, I think that he would try to separate us as much as possible so he wouldn't go through that debate. But I think that the allure of my audience, especially when they've been kind of like trying to desperately get a lot of eyes on their stuff for a long time, I think that's too alluring for them to turn away from, for him to turn away from, because he's ultimately
I just talked to him. He's not going to cancel the debate.
Okay, I didn't think so.
So the conversation that I just had with him, it's like pretty obvious grooming to me. There's videos of him like on stream with her and another guy. He's like encouraging her to put on sexier clothes. He's encouraging her to dance provocatively for this guy. He's admitting to doing this so that he can get clout, so that he can so that he can get bigger and gain views off of it. He's like keeps, every time I try to ask him about it, he keeps like downplaying it, like, oh, we're not allowed to have conversations about the birds and the bees. Like, I'm not allowed to think I have a beautiful daughter, and so I have to keep like bringing him back to like the conversation about grooming. And yeah, like overall, it seems fairly obvious from all of the all of the stuff that he's admitting to.
Yeah. So the things here, sorry, fuck, this is interesting. So one of the lines of questionings that I wanted to push them down, the challenging things here, one was, do you feel like you constantly have to cover for your father? And then the second question that I really wanted her to explore is, do you feel like you're uncomfortable and need to reframe those emotions often? The reason why I wanted to ask this second question is because a guess that I would have had for her was, there's a lot of times where you're really uncomfortable with the relationship you have with your father, but with his encouragement, you end up reframing a lot of things to either make it your fault or make you understand that even though you feel bad about it, you shouldn't feel bad about it. This is a question that I wanted to ask, and it seems like that's exactly what's playing out here in these chat logs. Damn it, I'm fucking things up with my dad. He said that we could maybe relax and watch some vids about the Steven Crowder situation and get to know the whole story more, but I do this thing where I pretend I'm afraid of him and I start choking on my words and stuff and acting skittish. It comes in waves, always worst in the mornings, even though this morning wasn't even that bad. I don't actively choose to pretend to be afraid of him, but I'm saying to myself the whole time I'm acting afraid, just calm down, just relax. This is a pattern from my mom. Remember, externalizing all the bad feelings onto the mom is a really important pattern for these two, right? He's your friend. He wants you to succeed, which is fucking true. I know it. She might quote unquote know it, but she doesn't feel that way. But whatever. I'm not sure what it means that sometimes I just can't relax. Maybe it's a bad habit that'll go away. I can't believe that it means I have to talk to my mother, but that's what I always come back to because she taught me to be afraid of him. Remember, externalizing the negative feelings or blame onto the mom always. I just get in a place mentally. My guess is going to be, I don't have her in here right now to ask, oh, this would have been another good challenging question, is when you guys have difficulties between the two of you, is it oftentimes framed as the mom is the cause of the problem? So for instance, they're fighting, she feels a different type of way about something and he's saying, listen, you're wrong. Does he ever say, listen, the only reason you feel this way is because your mom told you this thing about me, because your mom is making you feel that way, because your mom's thoughts are still in your head, right? I bet that comes up a lot in their fights. That'd be my guess. And I see it come up here. I just gonna
on top of that, he seems to have this like stuff to hold over her head. So her boyfriend was in my chat earlier saying that he like sends her tens of thousands of dollars, that like he pushed her to break up with him recently because he kept saying that the dad was abusive. The brother was in my chat earlier apparently saying that he that they would like dip off to hotels for long periods of time. The brother tells stories, I think you might have seen this, where he's like got a broken leg and they would like pretend to bring him food, but like literally like hold it at arm's length until he did X, Y, and Z for them. Or they supposedly like they said that they were going to call the cops on him when he punched the dad, and so they like tried to get him to agree to a list of things before they decided whether or not to call the cops. So like there's always this power game where they're trying to get people to do things with different with all sorts of different objects or different dynamics.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's not surprising. None of that is surprising.
I mean, literally after you talked to Grace the other day, I had her on the show right after, because the way that she talks about Hillary sounds exactly like her dynamic with her mom. Like the way that she talks about just leaving is abusive. She says that her mom is abusive just because she left as well.
Yeah, that's not surprising at all. Yeah. I think I need to manage myself better. I think God is working mystical ways in my life. Why can't I just relax and do that? I just get in a place mentally where I can't calm down, and then I just keep getting more and more agitated, and even when I try to calm down, it just makes me more agitated that I'm not calm. Something to keep in mind is if you're ever around somebody where you feel like you're constantly on edge, or there's a heart, for some reason you just always feel uncomfortable, but it always comes back to being your fault, or you feel like, okay, this is why it's my fault, there's a really good chance that you're around a very manipulative person. It's very, very, very hard to understand that, but there are some situations, guys, I don't know how to convince you of this because it's really hard. If you're around somebody that's really good at being manipulative, you will never be able to intellectualize your way out of it, because they're probably really good at setting you up in ways where you can never fight back intellectually. But as humans, we generally have a pretty good feel for when people are abusive or manipulative. We can feel it out a lot. If you find that you're fighting your gut, or if you want to be romantic, if you find that you're fighting your heart with your head constantly, chances are somebody is mind fucking you, and it's good to remove yourself from that situation. The only thing that can help you see when a situation like that is abusive is by putting time and space between it. So if you leave an area for 2 weeks and all of a sudden you find out, wow, all of the anxiety that I have seems to be gone, I seem to feel much happier on a day-to-day basis, I don't feel like I've got somebody breathing down my neck, or I've got somebody critiquing me all the time, or that I need to be on edge or defensive. If you're feeling those types of feelings when you put some space between you and somebody that might be an issue, then sometimes you can start looking back on those things and go, oh, maybe that behavior isn't normal. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have to feel constantly defensive. Oh, maybe it's not like my fault every time they have a problem, right? But that's a really, really, really difficult thing to do, and you'll never be able to do it intellectually. Like, you have to like rely on your gut a little bit for stuff like that. But yeah, that's a hard one, guys.
What was your conversation with Grace like?
Just her, I don't even know. Fuck, I'm fucking tired. I can't even summarize it. It's 3:50 a.m. People keep saying to talk to the brother. Yeah, I could, but I mean, at this point, I have a lot of puzzle pieces. I have a feeling that if I were to talk to the brother, I feel like he would agree with every single thing I'm saying. I think that he probably feels like he actually probably views Grace less favorably than I do. He probably thinks she's more evil or manipulative. He probably thinks that her and her dad are working together constantly to attack him and the rest of the family, or him and his mom. That'd be my guess. He probably doesn't like the mom very much either. But he probably feels like Grace is being super manipulated by the dad. That'd be my guess. If the brother wants to come on and chat at some point, or if the mom wants to come on, they could. But yeah, I'd be surprised if he said anything different than that. But yeah. Oof, holy shit, I'm tired.
Great take, Dr. Phil. Great take.
Yeah, true.
Go on. I bet they love this. I'm not gonna lie. Grace and her father, they fucking love this. Okay,
they'll love it. Yeah, they'll love it so long as the dad doesn't feel like he's ever losing his daughter to anything. But oftentimes, the thing that makes it so nice when you're a manipulator, the more control you have over somebody, is the more adversity that other person faces, the more likely they're going to look to you for comfort, right? Because anytime somebody tries to break up an unhealthy dynamic or point out that there's an abusive situation going on, he can always label that external person as a threat or as an abuser, and then he can say like, look, this guy's trying to break us up, these people are jealous of what we have, he doesn't understand our dynamic, this guy's like your mom, these people don't understand, blah blah blah, and they can actually like build a closer relationship doing it. So
she's a tough cookie too, because I had a long conversation with her about this a couple of days ago, and she's like very similar to him, where it's like she's putting on an act. Like you can see her switch, almost like she's switching characters from one moment to the next, where all of a sudden she's like smiling at you and trying to be like very flirtatious with you, and she plays the same like Mott and Bailey game where she's trying to convince you of some like very random thing that has nothing to do with what you're actually talking about, but pretends as though it relates somehow. She is just so I can't tell if she's like so brainwashed or if she's actually like completely in on it.
I think there's two things happening with people like this. One is there is probably a significant amount of cognitive dissonance that's being introduced to her life constantly when she has these conversations, because there's a lot of claims being made by people that, one, she probably thinks I'm decently intelligent, I'm not a total fucking retard, and two, just the sheer amount of outside people that are probably saying things like, hey, this looks uncomfortable, this looks abusive, you're probably not happy, blah blah blah. You have to resolve that cognitive dissonance, right? That people can't live with dissonance in their heads, right? And part of the ways that she probably tries to do this is when it sounds like she's convincing you of random things, they're probably things in her own life, and she desperately has to have those things in place, otherwise like her entire life will fall apart. Like if she's the one that's like arguing on some esoteric topic about how something is or isn't abuse, it's probably because it's something that her dad does to her pretty frequently, and it can't be abuse, because if it is, her entire life collapses, right? Remember, her dad is probably one of the sole sources of validation or good psychological feelings that she gets, and if she realizes that that was fake or tries to undermine it, like her whole world collapses, you know?
Yeah, she kept the other day she was talking to her a boyfriend at the time, where she keeps telling him that he needs to learn how to put her in check, that she gets out of control sometimes, and he needs to learn how to control her, and he needs to, you know, have a better strong hand and all sorts of stuff like that. And then Like, and then the dad eventually pushed him out, and he says that it's because he's like holding tens of thousands of dollars over her head, but I don't know.
Sure. Okay. I'm gonna do this real quick. I don't know how much time I should talk about this. Okay, Scribble, what's going on real quick? Give us your 2 cents.
Oh, right. Hi. Let me mute the stream for 2 seconds. We can do this later if you're tired, because you do look fucking exhausted.
Well, just give me your 2 cents. Go for it.
Alright. From what I can tell, this is not really about views or money. It's mostly a sort of like public masturbation thing that's going on with the dad, where he's engaged in a long act of self-desecration, and the fact that he has a beautiful daughter that he can publicly pimp out to predators or weird men online is something he gets off on. The views and the money are secondary. And because that's how she's been taught to value herself, she is playing into that more and more as time goes on. Now, if she engages with you over a long period, there's a good chance that you'll probably end up trying, converting her mind a little bit. But the thing is, the father will be watching for it. And at that point, 2 things can happen. Either he thinks that he can successfully honeypot you using her into, continuing this weird public fetish he's got going on. Or if he thinks you might have a chance of taking her away from him, he's going to do something drastic. I think there's maybe like a 1% chance that he'll go as extreme as killing her. 1% chance.
Okay.
1% chance is about 10,000 times higher than it should be.
Wait, Destiny, don't reply. Mods, ban everybody that said Apu stalking. Ban everybody that said not Raj again. These niggas are fucking fucked up, okay? You niggas call me gorilla and monkey, but I will not stand for racism against my wonderful Indian brothers. You're the number one tier 5. I love you too. Listen, but my love for you is kind of waiting since, you're also being called the number 1 tier 5 guy. Like, are you the king of the tier 5s?
That's for Steven to decide.
I think there might be some truth to what you're saying. I just don't have enough information. The dad does seem to want some level of publicity, though. I don't think it's just about pimping his daughter up, because he tries to make his YouTube channel work. He tries to do debates. He tries to have like a YouTube presence. It doesn't look like he's just trying to pimp out the daughter.
Yeah, but all of that is instrumental. The thing that he's engaged in primarily is an extended act of self-desecration. It's like essentially what cuckolds do, but instead of doing it in private, he's doing it in public.
And
maybe what I'm worried about is that, here's where I'm personally worried about a little. I don't know if I want to say this. I don't know if you want me to say this public. It might be you might want to remain this private. You want to
say it, please.
He's gonna say his worry is that I'm gonna knock her up, and now I'm gonna be baby trapped by a crazy family. That's his worry. That's what he wants to say.
Nice one. Say it. Say it. Go ahead.
If you somehow successfully manage to convert Grace away from him, he's going to take it personally. He's going to come after you, and when he realizes he can't attack you or hurt you directly, he's going to come after the ones you love. There's 2 people that become targets.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Ooh, Dan and the sponsors?
Probably
is that
Nathan and Melina is probably saying it, but okay, I'll keep all this in mind. All right.
And when I'm saying, finally, when this happens, it won't be planned, it won't be smart, it'll be dumb, and it'll be opportunistic.
How could you possibly be awake right now? What are you doing in here, Muda?
So yeah,
I just woke up, bro.
Bro, I'm on the darker side of YouTube's like lore shit right now. Okay, I don't know why you would even join this at this degen fuck hour.
I don't know what are you talking about? I'm not in the stream right now.
We're in trailer trash drama.
It's just I can't even give you like a short version of what's going on. I wish I could, but it's just like so. Have you ever heard of you haven't even heard of these people? I know you haven't, but have you ever heard of the Thorps?
Okay. Thorps? What?
Thorp family. Okay, yeah.
Thorp family. Hold on, let me Google this.
I don't even think these people have many views. It's just like a.
Link him the 2-hour documentary. Let him watch it right now since he just woke up. That's a good TLDR.
Jesus, yeah, but also
2-hour documentary.
Yeah,
Sure.
also it's 4 a.m. I'm fucking tired and dying, and this is I'm sorry. If we ever talking to Pedro, I can try to get you over this, but holy shit!
Wait,
all right.
I did want to ask, were you the one who briefly dragged me in yesterday for 5 seconds and kicked me out?
I don't remember.
Probably, by the way.
I was suddenly in the call for 5 seconds, and then I said, like, "Are you for real right now?" And then 5 seconds later, I was out. At any rate, I think that was probably for the best, because I would have lost my shit at Grace, and then I don't think this conversation that you had with her this night would have happened.
Jesus.
Listen, honestly, I think Grace is correct. I think you guys are just overreacting.